You're up and it's still dark. Kick back with a cup of joe. You know you've got friends waiting on 1620 The Zone. It's Happer and Schaefer. It's Connor and Mike. Listen on the radio stream or YouTube or podcasts. Anytime it feels right. It's Happer and Schaefer.
Morning. Happy Thursday, everybody. Happer and Schaefer, as you can tell, on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com. Welcome. Hopefully you're getting where you're getting to this morning safely. A little moisture out there. It's chilly. It's cold. But hopefully the warm tones of this song can help deliver you there with peace and quiet and harmony. Good morning, everybody. Hi, Mike. Hi, Joey.
Good morning, Connor.
Good morning, Connor. Oh, the mic's fixed.
Whoa.
It's fixed.
Are we back?
We are so back.
Okay. All right. Joey's like all in. I saw a bunch of Celtics tweets from you last night, which is
Yeah,
exciting.
Baylor Sharman had a phenomenal third quarter, both ends on the floor. He missed a couple shots that should have went in, but he was all over the place. He kind of led the Celtics in a comeback for a bit until they just ran out of gas in the fourth quarter against Atlanta.
But you're like, I saw like at least three, because I go back after, if I'm doing something for a couple hours, which I was doing women's basketball last night, I'll go back and look at the For You. And I got some Joey tweets, and there was like probably 3, 4, 5 Celtics tweets, just pictures of his television, which I was like, oh, damn, he must have been in on the Celtics game last night.
Well, since the football season's done for me, my Packers are done. I'm more invested in the Celtics at the moment. They're in second place in the East with a 29-18 or 19 record. They're about to tie with New York, while Detroit's alone in first place. They're doing pretty good. And
are you going to be sad when the Knicks get Giannis?
I was going to say, are the Celtics in the Giannis sweepstakes?
I'm at the moment, no. They are trying to get a center because they have nobody protecting the rim. They lost Horford,
Sounds like something Giannis could
and Kristaps Porzingis.
People have compared him to Shaq.
I think the Celtics would have to give up a lot for that kind of a move. They try to get rid of Anthony Simons for Zubac to the Clippers and Vucevic for the Bulls, and both teams denied, or they rejected the offer. So
you're going to have to give up a lot to get Giannis, I think. That's my
I would think one of the – I don't know if he's still one of the top players in the NBA, but at one time you could argue the best player in the NBA, at least for like a fleeting brief moment.
Definitely. Won a championship.
It's one of those where I don't pay attention to the NBA at all until the playoffs roll around, and then I only marginally pay attention. But it feels like if a guy of that caliber is available, everybody would be taking their best shot that they could.
I would think so, especially teams like the New York Knicks.
Like the competing teams. I mean, you're
right.
Losing teams are probably not as interested.
Well, I wonder what Joey, maybe you could answer this question. What is, this is how far separated I am from the NBA at the moment.
Yeah, it's wild.
The
version of you that when we did the show previously was very, very much an NBA hole.
Yeah, because I went to a couple games, and I was.
And the Nuggets were on their way up.
They were on their way up, right? Now they're at the top.
Now they're established. Mike Malone still owes me for that terrible coaching performance where I lost money on him.
It's just not as fun anymore. But what is the NBA? What is the desirable team right now? Where would you want to go if you were an NBA player? Like, every year, or like maybe it comes in like 4 or 5 year waves. There's a desirable team. Everybody says, I want to get traded to the Lakers. I want to get traded to the whatever.
I'm sure the Lakers is going to open up at some point because LeBron's got to retire at some point in his career. He's 41 years old, and
Lakers are more desirable without LeBron.
I would probably say you got Luka Doncic there. You're going to need some defensive presence on the Lakers because Luka's not a great defender for a superstar.
They wouldn't be able to make this trade currently, though.
No,
right?
they wouldn't. I think
it sounds like it sounds like this is going to happen by next week.
I mean, I
But yeah.
would. It happens pretty fast.
Yeah.
I think Miami's
Once
in the
players like,
sweepstakes
hey,
for this.
trade me, they're pretty much gone in the NBA. Or you could listen to this. Joe Boo writes in on YouTube, nobody watches the woke NBA. That's obviously not true.
Joey does.
Joey watches the woke NBA.
I have a team pass.
He has a team pass.
I could watch
that?
all the Celtics games.
Can you name any players on the Hawks?
Not anymore. Not that Trae Young.
Yeah,
got
I know.
traded.
Like that's I saw that he was traded. Did they trade him for Bradley Beal? Or
No,
something?
CJ McCollum to the
Okay.
Wizards.
Nice. This give me one on the Hawks, Joey.
I'm trying to remember the guy's name who got elbowed to the mouth by Jaylen Brown. He had like 2 teeth hanging. I took a picture on my TV. You could see his bloody mouth when he had to come back and shoot the free throws. I forgot what his name was.
We've officially reached the point in my life.
Porzingis is on there.
Yeah, he's on there. I think the Celtics. The Celtics traded him to the Hawks for
All right.
I think a ham sandwich.
There's. I wonder how many NBA teams I can even name an active player on anymore.
That'd be tough. I think we did that. I did that on a crossover with Matt one time, and he was actually remarkably good at it. Because he
watches the Bulls enough to.
He watches a lot of stuff. Yeah, indeed.
Well, he's in his 20s. Like it's just a difference.
He's got time.
He's got time. And the interest in doing so, I mean, between watching sports and studying quotes so he can be in with pop culture, I mean, he's got plenty of time.
Spark notesing movies. All right. Today on the show, welcome in. It is Thursday, everybody. It will be joined by our esteemed guests, as always, on Thursdays, Brian Christopherson, Max Olson. They will provide us expert analysis, and their guestship is powered by the Rooferees at John Higgins Weather Guard. We want to hear from you all today. 402-951-1620 on the Prairie Flower Casino Zone hotline. You can call or text that number. Tweet at Happer and Schaefer, at Connor Happer, at Mike J. Schaefer on Twitter. Email Connor, Mike, Joey, 1620zone.com on the Equitable Bank Zone inbox. And we say good morning to the YouTube streamers out there. How are we doing, everybody? Apparently bad because we spoke about the NBA for too long. Dang it!
Well,
fortunately, we have 4 more hours to talk about stuff that we do know about.
And I don't see any NBA topics on our sheet here,
Nope. I'm not seeing any either. But
actually, there is one. I did throw one on the topic sheet.
What?
It's a former NBA player.
Oh yeah, I saw.
Whose
I saw
merchandise went for an insane amount of money.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think we'll get to that today?
I have no idea. It's on there.
I saw it on there. I think that's got the lowest percentage chance of us getting to it today.
It's literally on there for a hey, did you see this? Did you hear this?
I love that it's on there. Elsewhere, we have many other things that I've had a topic sitting on here about college football for like several days now, and maybe today is finally the day that we ultimately do get to it. A couple of different graphics that I saw over the last couple of days regarding the Big Ten's schedule, and then extrapolating that nationally to the quality of opponents that you're playing and how many of Team X and things like that. So we'll break all those things down. Nebraska threaded sort of an interesting needle in that conversation. A new defensive end.
Yeah.
But then also there was news yesterday that a potential new defensive lineman might not be a new defensive lineman anymore, Mr. Berryman. So we'll see about that one. Maybe it's a trade-off there. We'll try to tie together the ongoing Charles Bediako situation over at Alabama. We will take a look ahead at the offseason for Nebraska football. If you have a thought of where Nebraska's at right now, in terms of like a record, you have a number in your head, what might they need to do to increase that number? And the answer cannot be just time, because I get more and more positive with time.
Right.
What can happen between now and September that increases your likelihood of feeling good about this team? It's a fascinating question because we're at the time of the year where some people I think will say there's nothing they can do.
Right.
There's nothing they can do. So we'll get to that. Got a couple emails that I wanted to get to. We'll talk about basketball as well. And then I wanted to highlight this right away. We got there was actually a few tweets last night to us, but the one here from Cody regarding our beautiful, lovely song produced and created by Ian. I can't stop singing the theme song. It's driving my wife and I crazy. When will it end? And then he does the musical notes. It's Happer and Schaefer. And then we got Justin from last night as well. Hey, idiots. Thanks for getting the dumb song stuck in my head. He didn't say idiots. I threw that one in there for him.
Look, it is an absolute earworm. Like, it is an absolute earworm.
Do you think that
Matt McMaster was walking around just humming and singing to himself before his show yesterday?
Do you think that we should like play it like at the 8 o'clock hour too? Just to sort of
introduce it to some different people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
All right.
I like that.
Let's plan on that, Joey. When we come back to reset the 8 o'clock hour after your headlines, we'll hit the open again. And just
That's perfect.
And just see. Thank you, Stips.
So good.
Appreciate that. All right. We are off and running on a Thursday. We are pleased that you have decided to join us today, however near or however far. Enjoyed those commutes this morning. It might be a little bit slick out there. Be safe. All right. We'll be back and continue on with Happer and Schaefer on 1620 The Zone. Welcome back. Morning, everybody. Happer and Schaefer on 1620 The Zone and on 1620thezone.com. One more on the jingle here real quick from Matthew on YouTube, which I honestly, this crossed my mind at some point in the last couple weeks. You know, you got a good jingle intro when Teenage Wasteland is replaced with Happer and Schaefer in your head instead of as you're listening to Bob O'Reilly. Happer and Schaefer. Yeah. That's crossed my mind. It's very similar.
It's only Happer and Schaefer.
Maybe that was the
Happer
inspiration.
and Schaefer. It's only Happer and Schaefer.
Joey, you need to get on a track.
Yeah.
So wasted.
You got it. You're the songbird of a generation.
Can we get the piano intro next time? Like, if you know,
We have a piano only version.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have
I love the piano.
like an acapella version. We have like an acoustic version. Like
We should just play all the versions on the show.
There's a lot.
I feel like on Fridays randomly we just have a different version to come in.
Okay.
So it's like,
but they're not all like refined.
Okay.
You know, they're not all like refined opens.
Okay.
They're just like different kind of. I mean, we could definitely play them at any point in
Okay.
time. So, oh yeah, there are going to be things that we could do with it to expand the
That could
song's
just be an 8
reach.
o'clock thing. Just do it at 8 o'clock.
Okay. No, yeah. There's definitely different things that we could do with it. All right. So thank you for commenting on the song. We will take our excuses to talk about it every single time. Got this email last night. Schaefer and I did. Connor, Mike, 1620thezone.com.
Send us emails.
I read this as I was watching the fouls accumulate to the, you know, it was like the biggest snowstorm of fouls you've ever seen last night in the Nebraska women's basketball game against Northwestern.
That doesn't sound great.
It was not particularly fun or enjoyable last night. No, but Nebraska did win. They got a half court shot. It feels like I think they've got like 4 half court shots or more in the past probably 3 years now.
Yeah, Caleb Henry had like found the ball and was retweeting them.
Okay, good.
And I remembered the Jazz Shelley one because I happened to be watching that game as that happened.
You were watching them play, like, wasn't it like an early season non-con game?
I don't know. I feel like I remember seeing it happen. Like it was just either on my TV or it
Maybe.
could just be like one of those you saw it on Twitter and then you think that you watched it.
It's possible. That's possible.
I have this vision of it.
I talked with Caleb last night for a while. We talked about his rage bait tweet, which was great. And we commiserated.
Did you congratulate him on successfully getting you rage?
Yeah, I was like, look, man, you got me.
I hope you saw the graphic.
Oh, which one?
The thumbnail I made for one of the replays.
Oh, man. I don't know if
I missed it.
Dang it. I don't know if I saw that. Dang it. Sorry, Joey.
I'll get it pulled up.
All right, yeah, get it pulled up and see what we got. But no, he was like, yeah, I wasn't listening, obviously, because it was 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, that makes sense. And then he went back and listened to the conversation and enjoyed sparking the conversation.
I've heard quite a bit from that conversation
with the rage bait tweet, which was fantastic. But no, we got an email last night from Al in Minneapolis. So yesterday, as the schedule came out, we were sort of throwing a games hat in the ring for Friday night games, potential Friday night games. So here's what Al says: Connor or Mike? Should we read the nice stuff first? Maybe we will. Hi, you two. Connor, congrats on the congrats on the new revived show. It's been a delight to listen to you two behind the mics again together. I have many fond memories of biking around the Minneapolis lakes and listening to your old show on 93.7. I used to intern for Jake and Sip from November 2019 to March 2020. I remember, Al. And
I do
have really enjoyed following you both your work since then. Here's an idea that crossed my mind, and I'm wondering what you two think of the take. Nebraska, Michigan State deserves to be a Friday night Fox primetime game. Ever since Nebraska joined the Big Ten, these teams have played nothing but bangers. The games are always competitive, weird, and dramatic. Fox would get an absurdly good game at the only time in the season where these teams will have halfway decent records / be interesting to the national public. Fox must capitalize on this and reward the college football viewing community with a primetime kickoff to conference play at the Woodshed. Regards, Al. I think he makes some outstanding.
There's a
points.
very, very strong case,
Yeah.
all the way through to the idea that if you're going to televise these teams,
better do it early.
you do it now. You don't.
What
you
was the
don't
line?
wait until November when who knows what their records are of Nebraska and Illinois.
What was the line from Scott Frost? You better get us now.
You better get us now.
Well, you better get him on TV now.
Yeah.
Because in November, it won't be as pretty.
And it would be Pat Fitzgerald's first game back in the Big Ten. I think it'd be his first conference game. I don't think they play one before that.
I believe that's right. Yeah.
And so you'd have that element of it. And as he said, and you think about it, every Nebraska-Michigan State game has been pretty weird. The only one that hasn't been within one score.
Let's go to the Winsipedia.
The only one that was kind of decided relatively early was when Lance Terrell picked off my guy Kirk Cousins in 2011. Nebraska won 24-3.
Oh, 24-3, yeah. That was a great win for Nebraska.
Yeah, it was a huge win, and then they followed it up with the loss to Northwestern.
Kane Coulter.
So the rest of them, though, like 2012 is still probably my favorite all-time Nebraska football game I've covered.
Michigan
in terms
State,
of going on the road.
Michigan State beat them pretty good in 13. I remember that game. I was at that game.
Yeah, the thing
I feel like that was like a
game,
Le'Veon Bell game.
The thing with that game in 2013 was Nebraska and Michigan State were playing. The winner of that was going to win the division, more or less. And so they have a pretty good game going. Nebraska has an opportunity I think they're down like 3 or something like that. And Terrell Newby loses a pitch in the sun on the option. And so they end up having this big turnover. Connor Cook has like a big drive that takes him down there. He has a couple key third down conversions.
I remember that game being a night game for some reason. Maybe I'm
No, that wasn't a night game. 2014 was a night game in East Lansing.
Yeah.
And that Bo Pelini punted from the Michigan State 28 or something like that.
Oh, yeah, great
Nebraska
times.
got a fumble early in the game, and he literally punted for a net of 8 yards.
So then
they got a touchback, believe it or not.
So if you just go through year by year, as Schaefer's already kind of doing. So you mentioned 11.
13.
So 12 was
we didn't really talk about 12, but 12
was
is
an awesome game.
It was the greatest Taylor Martinez game of all time, as far as I'm concerned, including the Kansas State one. You got the full experience.
13 got away from Nebraska late. 14 was the one that you just mentioned. 15.
Where you almost had the DeMornay Pearsonell has like big punt return.
Yeah.
Alonzo Moore almost hauls in. It's like would have been an incredible one-handed catch along the sidelines that would have given you an opportunity late in that game.
That would have that would have won the game almost for sure, right?
Assuming that would they needed a field goal to tie or a touchdown to win in that scenario? What was the final?
It was 27-22, so they would have won with a touchdown.
A touchdown, yeah. So they would have been inside like the 10-yard line, I think.
Oh, I thought that was in the end zone. Maybe
I don't think it was in the end zone. I think it was just shy of the end.
Okay. And then obviously 15 was the Brandon Riley, that whole
Jamel
thing.
Hill still mad.
18 was 9-6 snow game.
Rocky Lombardi.
21 was disaster.
Wrong
way punt. I mean, we could really come up with nicknames for all of these games. 23, Heinrich and the boys had them going up there. They had a lead, lost 20-17. But just a note here, that win has been vacated by Michigan State.
Yeah, I remember that.
That win has been vacated. So
Nebraska technically went 5-5 5-6 in 2023.
And then there was obviously last year in Lincoln where it was sort of a windy like turnover. It felt like, I don't know if it was a turnover fest, but they had that Milivojevic guy he was spinning that thing late.
Your big moments were essentially the blocked punt. Nebraska had a great drive to start it, and then they had a blocked punt that Mike Eckler had apparently told everyone all week was going to happen. Jameer Khan blocks the punt.
One thing that we know that Mike Eckler loved doing is telling everyone every week that they were going to either block a punt or take back a kick that week. He loved saying that.
And so they did it, and they're up 14-0, I think, at that point. And then the game just gets really weird.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a horrendous Dylan Raiola interception in there in the middle of it. And then it was one of the big marquee plays of the season was when Isaiah Hunter loses a shoe on his touchdown on the wide receiver screen. And Nebraska ends up putting it away. But Aiden Childs was really Nebraska's only issue defensively. They couldn't stop him.
Well,
on
then
fourth
he was
down.
he stayed in the game, even though it felt like he was concussed the entire game.
Well, they just kept running him. He had like a 4-yard sneak touchdown that did not look great for Nebraska. Generally, you shouldn't be getting 4 yards on a quarterback sneak.
Agreed. I believe I
Especially when the
tweeted 4
defense
yards on a
knows
sneak.
that your quarterback's
LOL.
sneaking it.
4 yards on a sneak. LOL. I think that was my tweet reaction at the time. But so as you go through the history, I now support this. It's early.
Yeah, I'm in on it.
It's early in the season. And you know, there's like still some stuff on the line and all those things. And then you throw in the Pat Fitzgerald element. I'm really okay with this. So Al, thank you. And I think if there's one game that we could all sort of circle the wagons around, we each had our own game yesterday. If there's one game we could circle the wagons
Yeah, I'll vacate
around,
Oregon on a Friday for Michigan.
And
State.
we'll all move to Joey's position. This was Joey's game, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
All right, Joey, Mr. Schedules.
And this game screams Tim Brando calling the game.
This just sounds like we need to plan on being in East Lansing on doing our show East Lansing Friday morning.
Whoa. I'm probably busy that weekend.
That actually works out. I could produce the show from here and then take an early flight to Detroit. I got family over in Michigan.
Joey's
I can take the drive up.
He could get to Detroit.
Yeah.
In a flash in a hurry.
I got flight benefits.
Let's take a phone call on the Prairie Flower Casino Zone hotline. Here's Cody. Good morning, Cody. Thanks for calling.
Hey, morning, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I love the show. Usually listen to the recordings in the afternoon, but I'm up early today, so I thought I'd call in.
Thank you.
I just wanted to talk a little bit. Yesterday, you guys briefly talked about the kind of the style that Nebraska basketball plays with, and I just kind of wanted to expand on that a little bit. I love this team because they play in a way that, as a Nebraskan, it makes me proud to say that they're representing the state that I'm from. It's very workmanlike. They're always diving after loose balls. The effort's always there. Guys are happy accepting their roles. Again, it just feels like it represents the state as a whole really well. It's something that, unfortunately, not to make the incredible basketball season about the football program, but it's something the football program hasn't done in over a decade, right?
Yep.
Unfortunately, it's a lot of flash, not much substance. And with the basketball program here, you know, they don't make much noise, but they just go out there and they do the work. I look across the river at Iowa, for example, and you know, obviously Iowa hasn't reached the heights that Nebraska has in the history of its football program. But the way that Iowa plays, to me, if I were from Iowa, it would make me proud that it represents the state as a whole well. Again, it's very workmanlike. The attention to detail is there. The effort's always there. The physicality is there. Again, to me, it would represent the state of Iowa well. Again, something that the Nebraska football hasn't done. It hasn't represented the state of Nebraska well in over a decade. So I know, I just want to talk a little bit about how I just want to give appreciation to the basketball program for the way that they're playing. So it can make a person from Nebraska proud to say that they're representing the state well.
Yeah.
So, thanks for taking the call, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Cody. Appreciate you. I mean, I think overall I'm glad Cody feels that way because I think it's true. But like, I would say it represents everything well because it's just great fundamental basketball. Like, it's great. Like, if you were from Utah and they were playing this style of basketball, you'd be like, hell yeah, this is awesome. If you were in Texas, they'd be playing the style of basketball and you'd be like, hell yeah, this is awesome. I think anybody as a basketball fan, as a sports fan, because you start to see the portable things from sport to sport. And that's why it's hard to not think about football. I think you're like, they make it look so easy. It's not. But they make it look so easy. If it was easier, then everybody else in basketball and football would be able to execute and do the things they do. But it takes a lot. It takes selflessness, which I think they have plenty of, and obviously great skill and coaching and a system as well. So like all that stuff, I think is true for
yeah. I think it comes down to a lot of the stuff the basketball team does well. You recognize inherently as just things that you appreciate: the hustle, the determination to not let a loose ball get out of bounds and instead save it for your team, the heads up play, the basketball IQ. Like I said, one of the biggest differences for me is that this is a team that does a lot of stuff that previous Nebraska ball teams just didn't do very well. And are smart about it. And then if you're extrapolating it to football, there's also this element. They show up when you expect them to show up. They show up when you expect like it's going to be a difficult game, and yet they still show up.
Yeah, they even probably rise to the occasion a little bit.
And you don't say that a lot about Nebraska football, and that's not like a Matt Rule thing. That's just what it's been for the last decade plus. I mean, take it back to Bo Pelini. Like they didn't show up in key situations.
It takes a lot of confidence to do what they did the other night.
Right.
You know, just as a team, as a program, and as like an identity and doing what you do. I oftentimes look at Nebraska football and I say that's a program that lacks confidence. But how do you get confidence? You do the same thing over and over and over and over again, and then you eventually have success at it. And so I hate that Nebraska football has been this like revolving door as far as coaches are concerned. And I hate that even inside the Matt Rule era over the last couple of years, it's changed so much and it feels way more bumpy than I thought it was going to be. And I'm not talking about the wins and the losses. I'm talking about just in the stuff that they do. It feels inconsistent to me. And people always ask like, well, why can't football do what basketball is doing right now? And the answer is that they can, but it's hard. I think, you have to have a really sound identity and people who know how to coach to it. And I think it's probably a little bit harder with football, just given that there's so many people involved and stuff like that. So there's that piece too.
Yeah, there's a lot more.
It's just moving parts
to it with that. Some of it too is we have to remember, like, it's great right now. It wasn't great 4 years ago at this time. Like there's always this process that's involved with it. And now that it looks really great, I mean, there was a period of time clearly where people wanted to move on from Fred Hoiberg, and he had to adjust as to who he was. Matt Rule has to adjust to who he is with Nebraska football. And I think he has to a degree. I don't think that they're the same program that they were when he arrived in November of 22, but we need to see that play out on the field. They need to have some guys that are clearly impactful that come out of the portal too. I mean, that's some of it is, who would you say the best player directly attributed to Matt Rule and his staff that they went out and got that's been at Nebraska?
From the portal,
from high school recruiting, any of it. Because like some of that, it matters to a degree. Like these, you're going to get to the point where you no longer have the holdovers or whatever.
So the best one would be Emmett Johnson, who he did not recruit.
Right. And then, I mean, you could say Dylan Raiola, and
I would not.
That would get you right. But I would challenge you to name like Ben Scott.
Ben Scott's not bad. Did they bring in Justin Evans or was he here?
He was here.
That would have been an option.
I mean, Ty Robinson here, Natch Hutmaker here, Deshaun Singleton here, Omar Brown here.
How about
Sierra Wright, I guess?
How about the wide receivers?
All of the wide receivers would largely be attributed to them.
Yeah.
So
not that those guys you're
right. And so that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like you were very dismissive of Dylan Raiola, but there's not exactly like an easier answer that is an obvious one past him, because they haven't had a single player they brought in be all conference except for Kenneth Williams, who is now going to be on that Friday primetime game on Fox.
Oh, another reason you put it on Friday
against Michigan State.
Jobu says Rocco Spindler. There you go.
I mean, that's their best.
I mean, he was fine this year.
Yeah, a guy who is somewhere between your second or third best lineman. That's what I mean. Like this is part of it.
And you're right.
It took Fred Hoiberg a few years, but then he just started hitting on a lot of these because he figured out what he wanted.
Yeah, and I think I think we simplify that a little bit too much. Like there is a world where Price Sanford comes to Nebraska and it doesn't look anywhere near
right. Yeah.
Like it's
all has to work
not
in
just
conjunction.
like it's not just like you hit, right?
You hit because he fits your system and he fits your play style, and you surround him with players that make him better.
I think he also fits from a personality standpoint, obviously, as well. So that helps. But yes, but more importantly, like what he was going into, what Price Sanford was going into, was an advantageous situation for him. And then I think he sort of met that moment as well. And a lot of these guys in Nebraska football has got out of the transfer portal. You have put them in situations where they sort of have to be like
because you're perpetually in the savior complex. Because that's where Nebraska football is always at. It needs the right coach, the right quarterback, the right player. This one guy is the thing that's going to fix it.
To be honest with you, I think this is a thing that I've thought about for a long time. I think we talk about players too much around here. I think we talk about individual people too much around here. I think there needs to be way more of an emphasis on how things work from a team dynamic and from a team perspective. And once you start to think about it from that point of view, you will start to realize that the players, the individuals, aren't necessarily being put in the best positions, from a coaching standpoint and from a scheme standpoint. And so,
that all lines up to the same thing. You haven't had guys with monster performances. You haven't had guys that have been all Big Ten players.
I was listening, I hear people talk about Nebraska basketball, and they're like, and each of those guys deserve their credit, but they talk about Price and for a while it was Frager, and for a while it was Sam, and then Bearcat, whatever it is. You go through all that. I'm like, I don't even see that when I watch them, because I'm so addicted to watching them operate as a team. It's so much fun to watch them operate as a team. And that's the thing that matters at the end of the day too. Obviously you need individuals in order to do that. So and those guys certainly deserve credit, but I can't watch them and think, oh, wow, that one guy really, really stands out. I watch them and I think that team is so much better than the sum of their parts. It is unbelievable. Yep. And that's what Nebraska football needs to get to. They have it. They've had decent parts. They've had decent parts.
They've had parts that should allow for more wins than they've had.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't dispute that. I don't think anybody could dispute that. They've underachieved the last 2 seasons. Arguably 3. I could, year one is year one, but certainly 2024 should have been a lot more than 6 wins. And last year they had the opportunity to win more games and didn't do it either.
Right. So, I mean, it's those programs definitely look different at the moment.
Yeah,
you should be proud of Nebraska basketball as a person who just really loves basketball. As a person who really loves sports, because they play sports the right way. It's what a team is supposed to be.
Right, and it's like I said, it is worth at least acknowledging. It took Hoiberg at least several iterations to get to where this was at.
Yeah, I mean, last year they lost 5 straight games to end the season, right. And this is the same group. This is less than a year later.
Yeah,
it's a very similar group.
Similar, there's some critical differences, but there's also just guys that have significantly stepped up from where they were at a year ago.
Yep, no doubt. All right, we can continue that conversation. I want to hear from you guys on that. 402-951-1620 as we round out the hour, and we will do that next here on 1620 The Zone. But first, football's biggest game is right around the corner, and you can get in on all the action with Underdog right now in Nebraska. That's right now in Nebraska. If you're not on Underdog yet, then you are in luck, because new customers score $75 in fantasy bonus entries when you make your first $5 fantasy entry. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just head to the app, make picks on if a player will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, rushing yards, receptions, and more. If you get those right, you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. Plus, there is new promos dropping daily in the app, especially leading up to the big game. So if you like making picks and if you like winning money, then Underdog is the best place to be for the big game. Take a look across the board. It is one of the greatest days in America that we have, and there's nothing more American than jumping on the Underdog app and taking a look for yourself. What are you waiting for? Download the app today. Use promo code HAPPER1620 to score $75 in fantasy bonus entries when you play your first $5 on fantasy. Promo code HAPPER1620. Underdog, make picks, win money. Must be 19 plus and present in Nebraska. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/playing good terms _DFS_.html for details. Consider with your play. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.ncpgambling.org. So didn't you recently have Schaefer? Didn't you recently have Baz on your podcast? Chris
did.
Basnett, our dear
did,
old
yeah.
friend. He tweeted. He's an expert on all things Ravenna as a Ravenna guy. He tweeted out yesterday. It was the 20-year anniversary of the Bellevue West Ravenna game, which still is in Omaha. Like I guess I could only give you my own perspective or how I think it gets talked about, but it was like this city meets country type of. It was almost like a class type of war and things like that. Like it was so unique and so different, and everybody thought that Bellevue West was going to win by 100, and they didn't. It was a close game, and it was a good game. And so Baz tweeted out yesterday, it was the 20-year anniversary yesterday of the Bellevue West Ravenna game. We just watched like the first 2 minutes of the broadcast featuring our dear friend Nick Hanley.
Yeah, that was great.
With hair, talking to Coach Woodard, who look exactly the same.
Yeah, I have known Nick Hanley since 2010. And I had never seen that version of Nick Hanley. And so that was a real treat for me. So that was great. I mean, what I largely remember from that is it was an incredibly compelling game. Like just super close. I remember the coverage for it being a big deal. I don't remember the context of why this game took place or what led to these schools playing.
There needs to be like a big, like an oral history. Maybe
I
there
would
has
love
been
to read that.
I would too.
Would be very, very, very interested in reading that. I recall it happening. I know that the World Herald, which was my frame for most of my sports coverage, because that was a newspaper that we had growing up. I just remember it being big in coverage there. It was all over the news. I don't recall watching it because I don't think it was like available in Columbus. Be watched.
It was on Cox 2
right
locally, which eventually became a variety of, but it's the Cox cable, only channel.
Yeah.
That they did games on there for years, and they rebranded to several other things during that time. But Nick was the sideline reporter, which was incredible. And you had Drake Baranek against Antoine Young, and Antoine Young was at the top of his game.
Finish in the
point.
70s.
It was. I was just looking at the
like
final.
78, 72.
Yeah, it was
something?
67, 63 with
right.
like 17 seconds left. They might have got another free throw out of it, but yeah, that and the broadcast kind of just cuts off on YouTube with like 10 seconds left. So it just kind of ends. But yeah, it was like low 70s, high 60s, and it was a good game. Everybody sort of expected it to be a blowout. We were watching the broadcast open, and they were sort of like standing on the court, and you could feel this sort of buzz and energy.
Yeah, there was that noise. It's only really in high school gyms, but it before like a big game.
It's hot. They're like 1,000 people over capacity.
Yep.
Like the fire marshals are coming in. They're like, I don't know about this.
Man.
I don't think this is right. And it doesn't. That's a true moment in time.
There's
the Bellevue West Ravenna game.
There is something extremely nostalgic about like the big high school basketball game and then the crowd packing in for it. I grew up with it a ton in Columbus, and then of course by the time I was hitting high school, they famously became one of the worst basketball teams in Class A.
Is this a thought for like every generation, like that the high school games were better when they were in high school or like before they were in high school?
I think you just remember it differently. I don't know
obviously,
that they're that different.
Obviously, I haven't been to very many high school games over the last few years since I stopped doing high school games. But like
famously, Happer very, very good on the call with the broadcast.
Oh well, doing those state games those years, I mean, it was a treat.
You had some outstanding moments. Not like both that you got to call, but just like the play itself. I mean, I can't remember the Millard West player with the steal, and then the
ended up playing football at Nebraska.
Pius. Yeah, I can't think of the name off the top of my head right now.
I can't either.
But you had that call that was in the COVID year.
I think it was in a semifinal or maybe even a quarterfinal of that game. But it was like a full court.
It was the opening round. It was like the first round of the state, and it was Pius versus Millard West.
Yeah.
And I want to say the Hoibergs were on the Pius team.
I would think so.
So it was. I just
definitely-
remember being there, watching it all play out, and then going back and listening to your call.
And
either
Charlie
later that
Easley
night.
probably was too.
Yep.
Yeah. So
No, it was a good Pius team.
and then obviously
If you can remember who that Millard West player was, feel free to.
it was like just on the tip of my tongue, and then I lost it. Dang.
He played tight end at Nebraska.
He played football at Nebraska. Big guy. But no, the Millard North Bellevue West COVID state title was like
sat in my car in my garage just with the door open, but running so I could listen to Happer's final call of that instead of going in and watching it on TV.
Incredibly memorable for so many different reasons, including that it was a great game and Bellevue West finished on this crazy run to win. But I remember this year in 2006, seeing because the talk of
a freshman?
The talk of the town. Well, yeah, the talk of the town was Antoine. Actually, this might have been before high school for me because I think I went into high school 06, 07. So this would have been before high school. And I graduated in 10. But everybody would go to high school games back then, or at least I did. And Antoine was the talk of the town. He graduated in 08. But I think it was that year where I watched Antoine Young have one of the most ridiculous dunks in the Central Gym that I've ever had. And remember, those Central Bellevue West games were just nuts back in the day. But some great times and great moments. Thank you, Baz, for bringing that up yesterday.
I think by the time I was in high school, all the dunks that occurred in Columbus would have been labeled ridiculous.
It was a dunk, so it was ridiculous.
Like, oh, wow, that happened?
Yeah, there was still the novelty of the dunk. You know, we don't have the novelty of the dunk anymore. I remember when going to Creighton games as a kid, and then like they would, one guy every 5 games would throw down a dunk and be like, whoa! Or like Nate Funk would score 16 and be like, this is as good as it gets.
I feel like it's still relatively novel with Nebraska games because there's not that many of them.
But we've been a little desensitized to the dunk over the years.
No doubt about it.
By the way, thank you, Texter. Great job, Evan Meyersick.
Yes.
Evan.
Yes. Yeah, he's a tight end from Millard West.
Great job. And then Justin
had
the
layup
too.
for the game winner. I don't know if time expired entirely, but that's what I remember from that.
Great job by you guys. Those were fun games doing that. So shout out to high school basketball. Maybe in March we can get something special down at Pinnacle Bank Arena. All right, we'll take a break. 7:00 hour is coming up next on 1620 The Zone. Welcome back. Just past 7 o'clock here on Happer and Schaefer, 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com. Connor Happer, Mike Schaefer with you. Be safe on your commute this morning. Had some precipitation. I can't tell if it's coming down right now, but it was on our way in.
Yeah, it looks like there's still something coming down a little bit.
And it could freeze a little bit, so be careful out there as you make your way to work this morning.
If you're walking to class, just be careful if there's any ice, because if you try to jump over a possible puddle, it might be black ice, and if you land, you wipe yourself out.
This is great advice.
Sounds like a specific bit of advice.
This is something that happened to me.
Spoken from experience.
Yeah, that was wow.
Just don't jump over anything because there might be black ice on the other
Generally,
side.
jumping when there is icy conditions seems like it's a
Dangerous
bad idea.
It's not a good idea. And I was walking to class. I think this was when I parked at Happy Hollow when I went to UNO, and there's a sidewalk that's barely treated when there's inclement weather, there's snow or ice. So I was just walking to class, and I wanted to avoid this little puddle, and apparently I did this move, and I nearly passed out. I had a Gatorade with me, and that saved me. And then a friend came along behind me.
Okay, so
guided me to class.
Somebody would have got you eventually.
Yeah. My friend showed up like 5 minutes later.
And you still fought your way through and went to school. I would have turned around and said, I'm going home.
Well, this was an anthropology class, and the teacher was a very monotone speaker, so I was able to kind of relax while he was speaking some BS.
Doesn't sound like a good idea if you have a potential concussion or anything.
Yeah,
I think I did have a minor concussion that day. I just
don't want to go to sleep. Don't go to sleep. Stay awake.
I did not fall asleep.
Good job. Good job. All right. Let's take a phone call on the Prairie Flower Casino Zone hotline. Good morning, Random Mike. How are you?
Hey, got a couple random questions for you guys.
I am looking forward to them.
And you were even referring to at least one of these aspects of the game, but on the Nebraska men's team, it is so admirable. I always used to have trouble saying that word. So many fundamental things, and just getting to like every loose ball, it seems like, or guys being in incredible physical condition. Although we saw the limits of that, you're human beings, you can only go all out so long. But having to do with where one player has done something that's really a good thing, maybe more than the rest of the team put together. Anything come to mind?
What? Okay, describe that again. One player has done one thing. What?
Well, this one particularly is on the women's team, where one player has done something that's really considered a good thing, and done more of it than the rest of the team put together.
Done more of
and it's on the women's team. Number one, I'll give you a hint on that. And by the way, you did a really good job on that chicken promotion thing.
Yeah, I slow played him last night. I was like,
you're gonna have to explain this now.
Who wants chicken? And then I got it was a nice crescendo. I don't know what you're talking about, Mike.
This is between free throws, so you don't have that much time to do it. Do you guys get any blowback on that? Like, is that allowed for an announcer to do that when somebody's shooting? Apparently it is, because it's being done all over.
As long as they don't have the ball, I feel as if I could say whatever I'd like.
You've never been admonished.
No, I have not.
Yeah, and it's being done around the country. I mean, you guys aren't the only ones by any means. Okay, it has to do with taking a charge.
Oh, yeah. Callan Hake.
Yeah. Is that a fair statement? More than the rest of them put together?
It seems like it. It seems like she very much enjoys taking charges. Callan Hake, handshake meme, Sam Hoiberg. But Sam's got to get the call, obviously,
And that's the ball game right there.
Yeah.
And making layups. And the other one has to do with what you guys were talking about, dunks.
Okay. Who dunks more? Is that what you're asking now? Who dunks more?
And this would be obviously in the men's team. somebody who does it maybe more for Nebraska more than the rest of them put together.
Who dunks more on the men's team than anybody else?
Prager, right?
I'll give you a hint. He didn't play the other night.
Oh yeah, well it'd be Frager then.
Yeah, I mean, there's nobody really that dunks on the men's team.
I was gonna say, like, if they, if
that's why I was joking that it's kind of a rarity to see it still for a Nebraska men's basketball game.
Right.
Yeah, and it was great as they are, but is that a first statement? He might, over the course of the season, he's not even a starter, he might have had more dunks than the rest of them put together.
He's definitely the top dunker on the team. Yeah.
I'm trying to even think of who else
can dunk.
Bearcat has stopped trying to dunk after disasters last year.
Probably smart.
Sanford has a couple.
And I'll tell you what, maybe a couple dunks instead of those layups, which he could have. That's the ball game right there. But hey, do you agree there's a good chance we're going to be higher rated after losing that game, and we're number 5, than winning it? I mean, people have so much respect for Nebraska, and anybody watching that game, and it was a big game nationally, knows that looking at the differential and the free throws and all that, Nebraska was the better team.
If they win on Sunday, they may well go up.
I don't know how.
It depends on what would happen, in front of them in the poll.
You're not moving them in front of Duke, UConn, Michigan, or Arizona.
Yeah, there you go.
Somebody would need to lose.
But the respect is so great. But hey, back to the women. Is Potts? Any more information on Potts? I feel so bad about her not playing.
I heard Amy got asked about it a little bit last night, and I don't know. At this point, it kind of feels like she's just probably not. Yeah, that would be my guess without knowing anything at all.
Because the only team they haven't been competitive with, I believe, is UCLA. There's a good chance UCLA is going to win the national championship.
Yeah, they're really good, really good.
And Potts would really make a difference, right?
Yeah, they got to find a way to get some, good quality wins over the last couple weeks of the season. They're on the road a lot too. So yeah, Potts would definitely help. That's for sure. But at this stage, I don't know. I don't know if you throw her out there.
Yeah. Okay. Take care, guys.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Okay. Now, a lot going on there. What do we focus on? The dunks?
We can focus on the dunks.
They don't have any dunkers, on the team. Any guys who seem super interested in dunking.
I think Kendall Blue can dunk. He just doesn't play that much.
Dunking has become
I watched Marquette probably do it more in the game against Creighton on Tuesday night than I probably saw in the entirety of Nebraska's season.
That's what I'm saying. I referred to Marquette as the dunking team, and I almost say that in sort of a derogatory way. It just felt like they were only.
I wouldn't say almost initially the way you said it was in a derogatory.
Oh yeah, right. And then the game turned out the way it did, and it turned out that you can actually dunk and be good at the same time, so long as the other team is bad, in front of you and things like that. But no, Nebraska's cool with creating open space and just laying it off the glass. Good job by them. And then they have this whole other package with the because they're so undersized, especially the other night against Michigan, where you got Kale doing the pivot thing and some really, really creative shots from Bearcat over the last couple weeks and stuff. You have a lot of creativity. So whatever way you finish you don't have to just finish with power.
So I was, having said I probably saw more dunks in that Marquette game. I've seen more reverse layups or up and unders from a Nebraska basketball team this season than I've ever seen before. Some actually really high quality, high off of the glass with some spin on it layups from Jamarcus Lawrence as he's had to get up and under and stay.
Because they're so undersized. You have to find a way at that size to creatively finish.
And that's what made a little bit of Tuesday frustrating, because they have been pretty good around the rim all year. So it's for Bearcat to have those 3 misses and not to just pick on him. Sam Hoiberg had the breakaway layup that it wasn't really a breakaway, but had the layup that was a little bit too hard off the glass. That's even if you get half of those, that's 4 points right there. It just makes a big, big difference in how that game is played. Here's one other thing. it in the moment, but you don't really contextualize it. And I saw this in a Cole Stukenholtz tweet that got picked up by a college basketball group that then was not in a bad way, just highlighting the absurdity of the Nebraska-Michigan game from the Nebraska side of things. That they only lost by 3 and all of these things happened.
Right.
I completely, and I watched it happen, and then you internalize it, but they missed their last 10 3-pointers. That's not going to happen to Nebraska very often.
No.
And so it's, and Michigan missed a ton of threes as well. So it was very much the rock fight that it has been described as.
Did you watch the foul audit
No.
from that one guy?
I don't.
I'm so glad you didn't, because I don't know how people do it with this stuff.
I don't know who Ant Wright is outside of his stuff appears in my timeline every so often from people who retweet it. And then he and Jack Mitchell have had some back and forths because he's a person that's on our planet. And so, of course, you've had back and forths. So
he's alive and he is breathing. So Jack Mitchell has yelled
I
at
don't
him
know
before.
anyone that hasn't had a back and forth with Jack Mitchell. And I say that in the most loving way possible.
That's a great point.
But why do I care what this guy's foul audit is?
I don't know. It's a great
It
question.
means nothing to me. He's probably a great basketball mind that creates great content. I don't really care.
I don't even know what his takeaway was. Like if there was a takeaway, or if it was just like, this is a foul. This was not a foul. This should have been called
I think
a foul.
Nebraska fans were very much in his mentions because he's a Michigan guy, and
he's a Michigan guy.
He said that the Hoiberg thing was a good no call, and that I think prompted everything else. And so, I mean, I don't know why this. I saw this multiple different places, and people were just like mad about it, and it's like, this is the rage. This is rage bait.
So he went on there and was like, actually, they didn't get. They got.
He
the
said that
amount
Michigan or that Nebraska had 12 fouls that weren't called against Michigan. The Michigan's 8 fouls that weren't called against Nebraska.
Oh,
and
okay. Well, I mean, that's not.
Yeah, but
you shouldn't feel that bad about it.
No. Here's what I don't like. I just don't care about the foul audit from some random Twitter account.
It's a great point. I don't think anyone should care about the foul audit. I think it's
meaningless.
There's a line here. We will continue to enjoy on this show complaining about officiating and officials in general, like the day after. But I do not have the capacity and the bandwidth to go through it the next day and listen to the guy talk for. He was live for
multiple.
Like he was live for 3 hours.
He did the entire game and talked through. Like I don't.
That is absurd. That is absurd to me. And I guess I'm glad that content exists out there somewhere. But
there's a home for it, I'm sure.
I find it to be relatively pointless considering the game is over and you're like, no matter what happens going forward, you're going to continue to get questionable calls.
Yeah.
And so it will be inconsistent on a game-to-game basis.
Right.
Like we're not learning anything except for angering people.
Very frustrating that things played out the way they did. Nebraska still could have handled things differently. The game still could have went different ways. And, if these teams meet up again, I will be as excited to see it play out.
The refs missed 8 calls on Michigan that would have benefited Nebraska, and refs missed 12 calls on Nebraska that would have benefited Michigan, like you said. So, I mean, I don't know what the
on face value, what do you do with that? I have no idea.
Yeah, I guess Michigan got jobbed more.
Michigan should have
won by 100.
Looks like Michigan should have shot like an additional 20 free throws per this Twitter account.
Yeah, I don't know this Ant Wright guy, but all I do is see his weird profile picture pop up on my thing, and I'm like, I don't know what this guy's doing. But people seem to really like him. And then he said he didn't mind the no call, and the people were like, actually, I don't like you anymore. Never mind.
That's a quick way to not be liked.
John writes in on YouTube. Good morning, John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. Nebraska basketball is no longer like Indiana football. #loss.
Loss.
But what if they win the national championship still? And do they regain their Indiana status?
No, it's gone forever.
That's sad.
Yep, you can't be Indiana. They can just only comfort themselves with a national championship.
They could still have that movie.
I thought about it again last night about Kurt Signetti coaching in Lincoln next year.
Are you going to try to make peace with the Indiana fans?
I hope that I will. I'm now a huge fan. Like I hope that I've bridged all the gaps.
Build multiple segments around this the week of the game. Just
I'm so
we
sorry.
encourage Indiana fans to call in, and you guys can bury the hatchet, and it'll be great.
I didn't believe. I mean, this is a great story for the guy Cody, who called in earlier, who was like, do something that the state can be proud of. This is a great lesson in the impact that you can have on people if you just play sports the right way. All right. So I hated this story. I hated the Indiana story. I was annoyed by it. I was annoyed that the media wanted it so bad. And that was, I think, most of it. And then I kind of thought they were fraudulent last year. And
sounds like me describing the Detroit Lions in a lot of ways.
It kind of does. Yeah. Yeah, right.
Particularly how bad it was foisted upon me that you should feel good for Detroit.
And then in like September after they beat the living hell out of Illinois, and then they beat Oregon a couple weeks later, I'm like, oh no. This is real stuff. And I'm ashamed that it took me that long to really come to that realization. And then I started to watch them differently, and I thought, oh my God, this is a joy to watch because they just execute. And so it's a great lesson and a testament. If you do things the right way, and if you do all those things, then you could change the brains of even a staunch person like me, who decided long ago, actually, you're frauds and I don't like you. I love Indiana now. And now I love Kurt Signetti. I look at him and I don't feel like he's, I don't feel a rage burning inside my body when I watch him do his weird eyebrow things on the sideline. I think, wow, that guy has aura. And that aura is coming to Lincoln next year.
I have a similar experience, but not to the same level.
You don't look at Dan Campbell and say, wow, that guy has aura.
No, I wasn't talking about that. I was talking about Indiana. And because similar to you, last year, I believed that they were a college football playoff team. They deserved to be where they are at. They lost in the college football playoff, and that was that. I didn't think it was going to be repeatable. So I was an immediate doubter at the beginning of the year. And then
I was so excited when Old Dominion ran in that touchdown in the first quarter of the season. I was like, whoa, hello, fraud alert. I was so jacked.
That's a really good one of the, it's no longer like a thing that happens on the internet, but how it started, how it finished. So I didn't really believe that they were going to be as good as they were last year. And then somewhere around September, in that time period where they played the Illinois game and then going into Oregon, I was like, I'm going to stop doubting this.
I know.
I like what they do. I think that they are better in a lot of ways than they get credit for. It's hard to explain what I mean by that, but they're very good at doing simple elements of football.
That's it.
And
Nebraska basketball.
It sort of gets made into more than what it actually is. And they also just have guys that make plays. Like Surratt is a really good wide receiver.
They do, but I think that's the thing to look at going forward. Because now the conversation, obviously those guys are going to get drafted pretty right. Surratt and Cooper and Mendoza is going to go number one. And then you'll look at that and say, oh, well, they actually had a lot more talent than anybody gave them credit for. But nobody would have thought that if they didn't execute the way that they execute, So I think that is
chicken or the egg.
I think that is portable to the next, they can create another Fernando Mendoza. They could, they had the first Fernando Mendoza was Curtis Rourke.
Yeah.
He was Rourking it before he hurt his thumb last year. And that whole in the Nebraska game. And that whole thing happened. They'll create more guys like that. And then the talent level will continue to come up as well.
Part of it for them, and I remember this in the Nebraska game, their offensive line was so freaking good. And not in they just dominated you, and they did with Nebraska, but they hit their spots really well. They cleaned up really well. They turned Nebraska really well. And it wasn't just sheer physical dominance. It was technical greatness.
Exactly. And
then when they would hit on their pulling plays and everything, these guys were just like trucks picking people off.
And that's the best lesson possible because once again, I just made the point a little bit ago. I think we talk about players too much around here and we focus in on players. Offensive line is is the position where like it has to be 1 to 5 good every time. Otherwise, it looks like they're all bad, and individually these guys get called out. And I know there's the pro football focus grades and stuff like that now, but like those aren't 5-star offensive linemen that just got plugged into there and started playing football at Indiana. They just play really, really well as a unit.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, at the end of 2 years, after you've done it over and over and over again for 27 games or whatever it is, those guys end up getting drafted high, and people are looking at it, was like, oh, actually, they were better than anyone ever thought they were. No, they just play really well as a team. And turns out, that could get you a lot of different places. So I don't even know how we got on that conversation, but
you were apologizing to Indiana and welcoming them to Lincoln on October 10th for a game against Nebraska.
Nick from St. Louis asks, would you call them system guys? It'll be a good study to see what these guys do in the pros. I don't think it's because of the system.
So here's where I struggle with it.
They're really good at I think they have a legendary at this point coach. Like, I think they have like a freaking incredible coach. And so is that system? Is that teaching? Like, I don't know. I think he makes them better at football.
We didn't call people that came out of Alabama system players. Like, they were just very good at what they did, and it was universally acknowledged that they had a lot of talent. I feel like the system thing is a label when it feels like they're an outlier to a degree. Like, and Mike Leach's Texas Tech quarterbacks were system guys because that system isn't transportable to the NFL. Like, you can't run 4 verts and have a route tree that just guys break off based on coverage in the NFL in the way that he did it 75% of the time at Texas Tech, Washington State or Mississippi State.
Because the system is different.
Right. And so, like, I don't think there's anything inherently about what Curt Cignetti runs on offense that couldn't be run by anyone else. It's just that they rep it better. And his timing with stuff is really good. Like, he has, I think, he's maybe not even the guy who calls the plays. I don't know exactly the mechanics of Indiana football, but they have a very good feel for the game that they are in, for how to call plays. I mean, that touchdown run with Mendoza is a great example of it. That took some real stones to
sorry.
That took some real stones to make that call in that situation.
Yeah, it did.
But you only do that if you have a strong feel for the type of players you have and the execution that's coming.
So I would answer no to this question, because I think we've seen over and over again, players, whether it be in football and basketball, be in these quote unquote systems and, be coached under developmental coaches and things like that, and then go off to the NFL or the NBA, and they keep being that player, regardless of if they're in the quote unquote system or not. Now, you can't be in a bad position. You can't play for like the Browns, right? Or the NFL's Browns, whoever the NFL. Joey, who are the NFL Browns these days?
For what sport? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, the NBA Browns.
That would be the New Orleans Pelicans or the Sacramento Kings.
Hard to be good.
The Kings are bad again?
Yeah, they're bad.
That's sad. They were lighting the torch a couple of years ago. Sad.
When they had De'Aaron Fox.
We see this. I mean, people are going to be like, oh, here he goes again. But like, look at Kalkbrenner. That you would have probably called him a system guy. And
then for a while there, he felt like a lot of the bigs that Greg McDermott had generated throughout his time. And then he sort of elevated himself to being a significantly better version of all of those.
Then he goes to the NBA. And he was a talented guy coming out of high school,
right,
and all that stuff. They thought he was going to be pretty good. They didn't think he was going to be that good. And then he ended up being,
to think anybody's going to be that good.
He ended up being that good. And now he's in the NBA and he continues to be that good,
And famously, Nebraska shut him down when they beat Creighton a couple years ago.
I'm saying that stuff just rubs off on people, like winning at a high level and playing really well for a long time. All of a sudden, it's the only thing you know. And so it wouldn't surprise me if these Indiana dudes went to the NFL and were awesome. Now, they're also good players too.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so they're talented players.
Well,
too.
and I think some of what the magic of Indiana is that they absolutely kill bad teams. Like there's no margin of They don't play with their food. They don't let people hang around. They absolutely put you away when they have the chance to. I mean, he had that ridiculous quote after the Illinois game about how the Iowa game wouldn't look like that because they play. I don't remember exactly how he said it, but more or less you could hear the disdain in his voice for what he saw on film about Illinois. And that's why it looked like the way that it did. And that when they played Iowa, he knew there was no way in hell they were going to get any of the easy stuff that they got against Illinois. Like it gave you a portal into how Cignetti views things and why they kill bad teams, why Nebraska got absolutely gobsmacked out in Bloomington because they picked apart everything before the game even happened.
Yep. He saw on tape. He was like, I'm sure if you would have asked him the day before the Nebraska game, he's like, yeah, we're going to win by 100. We're going to kill these guys.
Like you have that level of confidence if you know that you've repped it, if you have the people that believe in playing that way. I mean, I don't want to keep making Nebraska Indiana comparisons either, but like Nebraska basketball doesn't go into Michigan and do what they do if they didn't have the inherent belief that they are able to do it.
I'll tell you that too. As a person who is like, I've sat in on pregame scouts and stuff like that for a variety of different teams. Like, it's a lot easier to scout other teams when you know what you're doing.
Right.
When you know how
when you can say we're going
to
to be able to do this, this, and this, no matter who we play, because this, and this is who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And that has not been the case in Lincoln for years.
Exactly.
Because every game you go into, well, we got to protect the football, and if we can keep our quarterback upright, and if we can get off the field on third down.
And we just got to do this better than we have all season long or better than anyone's ever done it ever. I'm like, okay, I don't know how that
honestly,
works.
that explains why the reaction to Mike Eckler was so outsized for one position coach.
Right.
Because that was one thing that you were counting on throughout the course of the season that actually dipped off fairly hard by the end of it.
Quick break here. I want to come back and show Schaefer a couple graphics that were floating out there regarding schedules. Maybe Joey will enjoy these as well.
I love schedules.
Back after this on 1620 The Zone. Johnny mails in on the Equitable Bank inbox. Signetti looked at the Nebraska tape and said, "This is barely a high school team. It doesn't matter what we run. We're winning by 50." Thanks for
Well, they did.
49. Is 49-50? Yes. Yeah, most certainly is. All right. I have some graphics for Mike Schaefer. These have been tweeted out over the last couple of days from the Reddit college football account. So they consolidated the schedule in a couple of different ways. So this is the actually, you know what? Let's do this one first. So these are teams. Okay, hang on. Now I'm got to make sure I get this right. All right, so these are the schedules broken down by, Nebraska's at the bottom there. If you're watching along this on YouTube, you by types of teams you play. So, for example, 9 Power 4 teams are on Nebraska's schedule, 2 Group of 6 teams, and 1 FCS team. Nebraska is one of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams in Power 5 football who have a setup like that. There are a few schools that are playing 11 Power 4s. There are some schools that are playing 10 Power 4s, and then you can kind of mix up your other two non-conference games like that. But Nebraska, I mean, for the first time in a while, right, doesn't have a Power 5 non-conference, Power 6, whatever, non-conference game to go with on their schedule. And so their schedule looks sort of weak on paper from that perspective. They're one of just, once again, 7: Arizona, Houston, K-State, Texas Tech, Indiana, hilariously, Nebraska, and Washington meet the criteria of playing 9 Power 4 teams, 2 Group of 6 teams, and an FCS team. However, there is this graphic. These are by teams that you played who finished last year in the top 25. Okay? So while Nebraska has one of the weaker schedules from the, they only play 9 power teams, what the conference scheduling gave them, and they went really weak in the non-con, they do play 4 teams that ended last season ranked in the top 25, which there's only one team in the country who plays 6, and then a few who play 5. And Nebraska's in the group of a few that play 4. Somehow Virginia ended up with 0 teams.
Incredible work, Virginia.
That doesn't even make any sense.
The ACC.
So Nebraska somehow threaded this needle nationally of like having attempting to not play anyone, but also still playing really good teams when you do play, that are on your schedule at the moment, which is sort of funny.
Well, this is why I don't really care about their non-conference schedule. I mean, you're playing in a 9 conference games in a big conference, and arguably the best conference in the sport as it relates to football at the moment. Like, you're going to have quality opponents. Indiana just won the national title doing this exact strategy. They were not ill-prepared to go play at Oregon when they played them at the end of September, and that would have been the best team that they would have played at that point. Now, they thrashed a top 10 team by 1,000,000 points in Illinois before that. Yeah. And we had that whole conversation. But it's to me, I think a lot has been made about this, but I just think college football has changed so much. It's not the same as the 8-game schedule when you played in the Big 12 North or even the Big 10 West, where you felt like maybe there was a real value to getting a Miami or a UCLA or a whatever on your schedule. I just don't think that exists as much anymore. And I think we're going to see more teams similar to that bottom of that first graphic, where it was Penn State and USC were 9 Power 4, 3 group of 6, and then the 9, 2, and 1. I think we're going to see more teams like that.
I think so too. I mean, it's very clear that we're headed that direction,
right? Which is its own sort of thing too, because then it just feels like the first few weeks of college football lack a little to them. But if you intersplice conference games throughout, which we've already seen, then I don't know that it really even matters that much as far as a television product.
That's true. But most college football fans really only care about their own team.
Sure.
And so those first few weeks of the season are a little bit slow. There's always the build up to the first game,
Right.
and then the first game happens. You're like, oh yeah, I'm actually bored. Why are they beating Ohio? 38-6 in the fourth quarter.
Famously, people did not understand what to do during the Akron and Houston Christian games, as Nebraska has not played 2 games like that in a long time.
Think about Michigan.
Turned out it didn't change their season a whole lot.
No, it didn't. No, it didn't. And that's the other thing. Like Nebraska just hasn't had like any success over the last.
Right.
So that's another reason why it's difficult for me to care about their schedule. However, as a fan, I do like to watch them play good teams.
Sure.
And I think it ignites the fan base and, stacks you up from a barometer perspective. Obviously, Tennessee was supposed to be on the schedule this year, and I wish they were. I wish they were. Now, do I understand what they're attempting to do and lighten the load enough because the conference grind is really, really difficult. I don't feel like they would have to do that if the conferences weren't gigantic in the way that they were and the schedules weren't so unbalanced.
Well, I don't think you would get away with it if you were playing 8 conference games.
Right.
Like if you're playing 8 conference games and 4 basically group of 6 or 3 group of 6 and an FCS, like it's a lot harder to do. Now, Kansas State has done that for a long time or had done that. That was famously Bill Snyder's scheduling. But it's, I think, much harder to do. Once you enter that 9th conference game, I don't think that there's a real value in having to seek out that extra game.
I wish they would. I wish they would bring back. There's a variety of different things I wish they would do, but I wish
we need a segment called "I Wish."
I wish they would. I wish they would. So
that could be the segment. I wish they would.
I wish they would. Yeah. Interesting.
It's not a bad segment.
Bit going forward, but in this case, I wish they would. Obviously make the conferences smaller, bring back divisions. That way you could make this work out. And maybe, only playing 8 conference games a year for the conferences are the right way to go. That way you could get some crossover stuff for TV products earlier in the season with other conferences. You're playing 9 power games anyway. The SEC is requiring, their teams to play another one and things like that. But it makes, it makes for a unbalanced and uneven thing. And it's even difficult to find that because nobody's going to be, if Nebraska somehow ends up 11-1 at the end of the year, nobody's going to be coughing at their strength of schedule.
No, because they will look at what they play.
They will have played Indiana and Oregon
and Ohio State and Washington
and Ohio State
and Illinois
and Iowa.
Like that's why it's easy for me to see why they made the decision that they did. I definitely understand why people would be critical of it, but I don't think Nebraska even has to think about that. No. Like it's an easy decision. Now, to your point about going back to 8 conference games, I would then ask this: would you be willing to get rid of one of the 3 non-conference games so you go back to an 11-game regular season, and then you have all your shifts that happen with
Big Ten tournament
with essentially that? Mm-hmm. Or it allows the college football schedule to be condensed a little bit easier.
I would.
So you wouldn't have your championship game played on Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
We should put this is a good time of the year to be able to put our heads together and actually, we could restructure college football. Maybe we should do that at some point.
I think we have the brain capacity between the two of us to really put something together.
I think we could do it. I think we could collab on this. We could get a big...
we can make it work.
Maybe we could get a big poster board.
What I want,
put it up in the lobby for people to look at.
What I want is to take time to go into a conference room, and then we've got the string, and we have all those photos of people up there.
Yeah, the big pointer.
Yeah,
we have a big pointer. I want a big pointer.
I want it to look like a homicide investigation, or we're going after the mob.
From the 402 for the I Wish segment. You could use the Rascal Flatts Sports Center jingle. That was a real song by Rascal Flatts. It's called My Wish. But yes, I remember they used it on Sports Center.
Yeah. Look.
Wish.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah. We could make a segment called It's My Wish.
I like the idea of I wish you would. It's not just I wish.
wish they would.
Or I wish you would, or I wish they would.
Wish they would. Lane writes in 11-1. LOL. Is the media going to sell us on that again? This is a 6 or 7 win team next year. No, Lane. No.
No
I'm
one
just
sold you on that before.
It's a
You could have sold yourself on it.
hypothetical theory. That was
I don't
all.
Look, I'm going to anger people with this. You're in control of your own belief of this team. The media doesn't sell you on everything that you think about the football team. And as often as people tell me, oh, the media propped this up, I've been on the other side of it where it's like, hey, I think they're going to be a 6-6 team. Why don't you think they can win more football games? What's wrong with you? They're clearly going to win in Minnesota. And then you go pick against Nebraska at Minnesota this year, and it's just nonstop. Oh, you don't think they could beat Minnesota? Minnesota struggled with this team. They struggled with that team. You are in control of how you feel about your football team. We talk about it. We present it. We present different angles for you to think about. We present ways that coaches talk about it. We talk with our sources about how things are going. But we don't crawl into your brain and make you go from, well, they're 6-6 on paper, but I think they're 10-2. That's you. That's your own optimism. That's not us. Full stop. We don't control that. You do.
I have no notes for you.
Well, there are no notes.
No, that's a great rant. Nice job. We'll be back with Joey's headlines after this on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back. More of Happer and Schaefer on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com. Joey, what a graphic. There you go. You can see it right now at Happer and Schaefer on Twitter. We got these, we got new headshots as well, which is kind of cool. It's just me and my boy Kurt saying I love Indiana.
I was told there's a lot more pictures in the catalog. I was just given a few for the moment. So
well, maybe it's early. Maybe they're getting worked on. There's a lot of work to do when you take pictures of us.
A lot of work.
A lot of extra things that you have to do. All right, Joey, we got headlines. What do we got today?
Okay, the first headline's out in Houston. Video shows flames flying from NASA plane that touched down without landing gear.
Are you Schaefer, when you see something in the news that happens regarding a plane or a spaceship, are you more likely to click on that thing?
Generally, yeah. We've talked about our affinity for air travel and just the wonder of it.
Is that just a man thing?
I don't know. I think that it's a human nature thing to be fascinated by the idea of airplanes because they still don't make any sense to me.
I know.
You can explain the mechanical nature of how any of it works, and I'm just going to be like, but it flies in the air.
Incredible.
And it's not a bird.
You could leave here right now from beautiful Omaha Eppley Airfield and in 3 hours be in the warm sunshine of Miami or something like that. It's great. It's amazing.
It's nice.
It's great.
No, I am very interested in airplanes and in space travel.
Okay,
too.
so hang on to that headline for a second.
That one seems like it's difficult though because it's largely like a video, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a video, but there's.
Are you going to be able to play the video on the?
Well, I got a description of what happened, so
Okay.
I could explain what's going on.
Okay.
The second headline is basically the same thing. Got a description, so I could explain what's going on. But the second one is British 2-year-old breaks 2 world records playing pool and snooker.
Snooker.
Oh, snooker, yeah.
Snooker. Okay.
Whoa.
I'm
kind of interested in that.
We're going with the 2-year-old.
As much as I love planes and spaceships.
We have a child around the same age, so I think there's a mutual interest from here. But I'd like to know both. Do we have time for both?
I don't care. Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
we could do it. We could do it. These are very short stories, but the first one, the headline video shows flames from flying NASA plane that touched down without landing gear. So a NASA research plane malfunctioned and had to touch down in Texas without a landing gear on Tuesday, sliding across the runway on its belly and sending plumes of flame behind it.
Everyone was okay though, right?
Yeah, everyone's okay. The crew landed the plane at
landing gear. We couldn't open.
Maybe they had malfunction.
Yeah, it had a malfunction. That's what it says. But the crew landed the plane at Ellington Airport, southeast of Houston, and all are safe at that time. NASA posted on X. The Federal Space Agency added that there was mechanical issue that will be investigated. So the aircraft with its distinct thin fuselage is the NASA WB-57. The plane with 2 crew seats is capable of flying for about 6.5 hours at high altitudes beyond 63,000 feet.
How much, if you knew like what pilots were capable of, like, like flying on a commercial airline, like flying you and I, Schaefer, from Omaha to Vegas is like, would be like the equivalent of us walking from here to the bathroom for pilots. The stuff they've
just hoping
seen,
we don't stumble along the way.
Yeah, the stuff that they've trained for, the things that they've already done.
It's a really, really long process because I got a sister who is a commercial airline pilot that's done extensive training for these moments.
And so landing a plane without landing gear, no problem. I got it. We just skid that thing off the ground.
How would your sister react to the common person saying that they could land a plane?
She would doubt it, I would say.
What if it wasn't a commercial jet and it was some sort of a small plane?
A prop plane?
Yeah.
I would say there's serious doubt because there's a lot of things you got to know. There's a lot of controls.
What if that person had played a lot of Flight Simulator
or GTA?
It's just information to throw in.
There's no hands-on experience. That's the whole point.
All right, let's get to the snooker.
Okay, so a toddler pool prodigy in England has already broken 2 Guinness World Records for playing pool and snooker before his 3rd birthday. So there is a video of this, and I was watching it. He's making making shots that I could not even make.
No, this is
What
absurd.
is he standing?
Look
on?
at it. He has a stool, Schaefer. He has a stool.
Incredible.
There's it's just,
Now, none of this is legal because one foot needs to be on the floor at all times.
That's probably true, but they're still giving him Guinness World Records. So his dad,
stool aided pool.
This
play.
is Jude,
stool pool.
2-year-old Jude. Quote, Jude has achieved quite a lot in such a short space of time. Yes, I would think so. Do I think he'll be a world champion one day? As a father, you always hope your kids do well in life. So that would be the biggest aspiration if he was to achieve that. I sense some sort of like this guy, the dad really wants his kid to be good at snooker.
It's Rory McIlroy's dad, is what you're saying.
Yeah. There's something up here, but
it's I can't even think of Tiger's dad's name.
Earl.
It's Earl Woods.
It is. Maybe got a little Earl Woods to him there.
He's going to be on Jimmy Fallon shooting snooker.
So far, so good though for young Jude.
Jude is a very.
Hey, Jude.
I feel like if it's going to be a British person, there's a higher percentage that it's Jude than any other name.
There's no doubt about it. Youngest person ever to pot 2 balls in 2 different pockets with 1 cue ball strike, and the youngest to pull off a bank shot. That's those are Jude's.
That's incredible.
If you just watch him making those, I'm impressed. This is something I would not be able to accomplish.
No.
So he's already accomplished a lot more at that age than I had.
All right. Thanks for the headlines, Joey. A reminder that when we come back for the 8 o'clock hour, for those not yet indoctrinated, you will hear our fantastic new open because we have to expose it to a new audience. So we're going to try and do so in the 8 o'clock hour. So we'll be back with that and plenty more coming up on Happer and Schaefer on 1620 The Zone.
You're up and it's still dark. Kick back with a cup of Joe. You know you've got friends waiting on 1620 The Zone. It's Happer and Schaefer. It's Connor and Mike. Listen on the radio stream or YouTube or podcasts. Anytime it feels right. It's Happer and Schaefer. It's Happer and Schaefer.
All right, welcome in. Welcome back on a Thursday. Happer and Schaefer, as you can tell, on 1620 The Zone. Listen on the radio stream, YouTube, or podcasts. As the voice, the songbird of our generation, Stibbs said. There you go. 8 o'clock hour listeners. That's what you miss bright and early. Actually, not very bright, dark and early at 6 o'clock.
It's going to be
Even referencing the song Dark.
Yeah. You're up and it's still dark.
It's going to be to the point where people are going to blare this out driving wherever they're going at like 2 a.m.
Maybe we should come up with like a playlist or something with a bunch of cover songs and parodies and things like that. We do 1620 the album.
Oh man, I
Well,
love it.
we got one song. We got Baba O'Reilly.
You can't just throw Bob O'Reilly on.
Well, yeah,
there.
but I mean, doing the parody, Hap and Schaefer.
Oh, like we just replace all the songs
Yeah.
words with
So instead
Happer
of,
and
the
Schaefer.
like what movie would you
It's
put a
Happer
Muppet in for the
and
main character?
Schaefer.
What song would you just replace with Happer and Schaefer as the lyrics?
That'd be good.
Yeah, it's sort of funny, I think, and repetitive in a funny way. I'm with you. That could potentially work. But anyway, welcome back. There you go. Now you've heard the lovely new open. Maybe we'll do that a little bit more often because that beautiful piece of work needs to be exposed to
good.
more people. A quick reminder before we get going in the 7 o'clock hour. Tomorrow is our Pink Out broadcast live from the American Cancer Society Hope Lodge, 10 to 6. So once we get done here, I'll go straight over to the Hope Lodge. Hopefully it takes no more than like 5 or 6 minutes to get there. Sit down with Matt for a little while, get things started there. Flan will drop by, I think, at about 10:20. And then we invite you, and Mac will drop by, I think, in the 3 o'clock hour. And we invite you all to drop by as well. There's a paper supply drive to help raise awareness and support for Hope Lodge, which is, and you'll hear plenty more about this tomorrow, an incredible resource for cancer patients and their families in town. 8030 Farnham tomorrow in front of Creighton's Pink Out game on Saturday against UConn.
Big game.
Hell in a Cell. Although I don't think Hell in a Cell really works anymore, considering Creighton's defense at this point in the season. So it used to, I mean, that's what I've been dubbing these games for as long as I've worked at 1620 The Zone. Hell in a Cell. Off of a few years ago, there was like a 57-56 game, and it was just like everything was so hard. And that's what they've kind of been like.
Undertaker throwing Mankind off the top of the cell.
It was lockdown, knockdown, drag out.
John
stuff.
Bishop doing his Jim Ross.
Yeah.
He killed him.
I hope on Saturday to look over at John a couple times across the court because we're exactly like on the opposite sides of the courts from each other. Because I always look at John when anything happens during the game just to see what he's doing, and usually his face is beat red. And I hope to have that happen at least a couple times on
Horse
Saturday.
crap call.
I assume standing.
Standing, like half standing, half trying to look
He's
around.
like in a crouch. Like anytime you ever see a picture of him or video of him.
Well, because he's got to get around Mac, who's always standing.
the rules? Apparently you don't.
So I look over there whenever something happens, and just to gauge the energy level for John Bishop, which is always very high.
I'm gonna miss cooking these drops that I make producing these games.
I know.
You're gonna have to rely on
You're
other
so good
producers
at
to
it.
do it.
Yes, I'm gonna have to, or just ask them to save me the game with all the markers, then I'll navigate.
But
I
you had your moment in November this year.
Yes, I did. Well,
with the horse crap.
I had the Seton Hall game that went to triple overtime too. The Evan Burrows game.
Evan Burrows, you do suck.
There was a lot out of that game.
Actually, I like Evan Burrows. I don't know about as a ref, but like he's always been pretty nice to me. I usually go out on the court and I start to mingle with the refs a little bit. Evan Burrows is a very nice guy.
I would like this is largely specifically a me thing. I don't know anyone else would find this as enjoyable, but I would like just a camera tracking you throughout your events over at Creighton just to see what your routine is like as you do all of this.
It would be wild.
I remember when you do women's basketball stuff, you'd be out on the court just shooting before games.
There's pregame pig at Creighton games.
There was someone in your Twitter mentions that was joking that they could hear you missing shots in the background of a pregame interview that was going on.
Yeah.
It might have been Chris Bassett who dropped
you could hear that
audio,
during unsportsmanlike conduct whenever John's courtside.
Yep.
That's what it was.
And then they turn the sound effects up on the rim and it goes clunk. Bruce, by the way, writes in, I think they were going to do a video at some point. I don't know what happened of a day in the life of me.
Yeah, I would watch. I'm endlessly fascinated.
There you go, Creighton creatives. If you want some content, you got me. Bruce writes in,
you got me.
Hey Connor, what can I bring to the Hope Lodge to donate? So it's like a paper, we're talking paper towels, toilet paper, household supply things to keep this place sort of operating. I think they take monetary donations as well. I will check on that. But yeah, I think we're talking paper supply drive here for the Hope Lodge tomorrow. So we'd appreciate, of course, anything we could get in that category. Always such a moving day every year, and there will be plenty of stories told on the air from 10 to 6 tomorrow about the impact that is having in our community and so many families across the country who come to Omaha for cancer treatment. All right, so let's get to this. Yesterday, as we pored over the Nebraska football schedule, we saw it for the first time. Joey's eyes opened up. Whoa, there it is. It's a schedule. It's so good. Look at it. It's covered in gold.
It's treasure, I tell you what.
So we did our sort of blind, what do you think the record's going to be?
Yeah.
And the first thing that you blurted out was 7-5.
Yep.
And the first thing that I blurted out was 6-6. I think we both agree that that's not very fun.
No, it isn't fun.
That's not very fun. So the question is this: is there anything that Nebraska can do leading into the next, through the next 7-8 months before the season starts that will make those numbers go up, make the positivity go up, and create some sort of energy that would lead you to believe that Nebraska is going to do better than our currently blurted out expectations? What has to happen?
I really think for Nebraska to do better than, and I have them at one more win than you do, but to do better than 7-5, and obviously in that means you have to win games against one of, if not more of, Washington and Iowa, and then you get into those the big three of Indiana, Oregon, Ohio State. So would you say that's probably a fair accounting for the 5 toughest teams on Nebraska's schedule?
Yeah, if you tiered it out, I think it'd be Indiana, Oregon, Ohio State, all three equally sort of in that top tier in terms of difficulty.
And then it would be Iowa. I would say Washington as a tier, and then Illinois as its own tier. And then from there, you kind of get Michigan State, Rutgers, and Maryland as its kind of own thing as well.
And then the non-con games are completely different from that.
I mean,
as well.
if you were doing
the Iowa,
if you're doing the schedule by tiers, I think you'd have 5 tiers.
Okay. So tier 1 is Indiana, Oregon,
S tier.
Indiana, Oregon, and Ohio State.
Yeah, playoff team tier.
Tier 2 is
top 25 tier.
Iowa certainly is in that for me. And Washington and Illinois.
I would put Illinois as one rung down from those two.
You're down
teams.
on Illinois.
I want to see
I put them
what life
borderline.
is like post Luke Altmaier for them. Their defense has been problematic at times. I think Brett Bielema has done a really nice job, but I reserve the right to want to see a little bit more in the post Altmaier life for Illinois.
I would probably put Indiana in that, but I agree they're
You would drop Indiana from the Oregon Ohio State tier?
no. Sorry, did I say
Illinois.
Indiana? I meant Illinois.
Yeah.
Illinois in the Iowa Washington tier.
Yeah, and that's why I'm carving out Illinois in its own tier because they don't belong with the other three that follow.
Okay. And then the other three that follow, of course, would be Maryland, Michigan State, and the Gers.
The Gers.
I guess it's favorable that the schedule is
Skurs and
really
Gers
spread
in
out.
November.
Sorry, say it again. Jay.
I guess it's favorable for Nebraska that the schedule is really spread out based on the tier of teams you get in.
Yeah,
in the
kind
list
of is.
opponents.
I mean, it is nice that
You get two from the bottom Big Ten
Right
tier,
away.
two from the top Big Ten tier right away, and then in there you have a bye week.
so it goes if by the tier that we just did, you go starting in conference play. You go bottom tier, top tier,
Bye.
middle, bottom, top, middle.
Pretty much.
So I don't know what the takeaway is there, which
As Joey said, it's fairly spread out. It's not like
Yeah.
you're getting a bunch of the teams one way or the other. I think that Illinois game is relatively critical if Nebraska is going to do anything more than 5 or 6 wins. These are the teams you need to beat to climb out of sort of where you're at in the bottom third of the Big Ten, or where you've been in the bottom third of the Big Ten,
right.
or in the lower portion of the middle third of the Big Ten, I guess, if you would.
So all that stuff, like kind of aside, I guess. So obviously the schedule is the schedule
Right.
at this point. And there is the outside factor of the schedule, like if Michigan, if I don't know, if Damon Williams gets hurt or something like that, then that changes the outlook.
Yeah,
a
I mean,
little bit.
Penn State was the best team on Nebraska's schedule,
could happen.
and they were not by the end of the year. Now, they played a lot better than if Nebraska would have caught them in October, but whatever.
But sort of looking at
Yeah.
this from a more internal Nebraska, and then as far as the schedule is concerned, like a little bit more nebulous standpoint. I don't. It's hard for me to predict what will happen in the next 6 or 7 months. I feel like it will probably, hopefully, maybe be a quiet off season. I do think there is an element to that you could take as positivity that is not nearly getting talked about enough right now. Just because I think the vibe is not good, understandably so. And it's that they are returning a lot of players.
Yeah.
And I think, continuity is really important. And I think there is still some changes in the apparatus, and obviously the defense has a new coordinator and all those different things. But I'm excited to see what a younger group of guys with another year under their belt is going to look like from a progression standpoint. There will be jumps that we haven't thought about yet from individual players. So I think that is happening. I don't know if we'll be able to see that. Maybe we get hints and clues in spring ball.
I don't think you're going to have a feel for this team until they play Michigan State and Maryland. And even then, it's going to be dismissed as playing Michigan State and Maryland. So, you really won't have a feel until they do play in Indiana or in Oregon. And even then, it'll be like, well, what are you going to do? It's Indiana and Oregon. It's going to be a long season. So here are the things that I think could happen in that time space that would help Nebraska have a better season. And that would be how quickly they can transition to Rob Orich's defensive system. It helps that you have a guy in Owen Chambliss and another guy in Dwayne McDougal that are coming out of it, had very successful years within it at San Diego State to help with the teaching of it, to help with the pacing of it, the organization of it. And then inside of that, specifically with a position group, if the transition from Terry Braden to Corey Brown goes really well, Nebraska has talent on the defensive line room. They just haven't played up to the standard or up to the level that you would have hoped. They haven't been up to the level that Ty Robinson left. It doesn't mean that those guys can't. I very much believe in Riley Van Poppel. Williams Nwaneri is an absolute stud in terms of his sheer physical size. Can Corey Brown unlock some things with these guys?
Yeah.
Can he get them to go from we see it, but we see it every play, not just a flash here or there? And, you know, that's a big, big part of this. And then you're going to move in some guys like Jashir Whittington and Owen Stoudemire and some others that are going to be rotational pieces for you on the defensive line. But there's some guys that I think that they can unlock. I mean, Cade Petchock could make a big jump from guy that we joke about that is somehow unblocked all the time to they're attempting to block him. They just can't. And so there's definitely players where if you want to make the case that Nebraska has upward mobility in 2026, and it's a difficult case to make, but if you're going to do it, it starts with some of those guys really taking a big step under Corey Brown.
Yeah, and I think defense too. I mean, you can make the case, and maybe I'll try to right now, that, you know, the defense at the end of last year was just so the lack of execution was so prevalent and so present.
That was a different P word than I was going to go with.
Pathetic, maybe?
Yeah.
It was so bad. And so
I really struggle watching when a team that stunk all year with run fits struggles again in the bowl game with run fits after a coach comes out and says, hey, we didn't do a good job with this.
Fitting.
We are repping and working on this over and over and over for the bowl game. And in the first, 3 possessions, you had guys miss their spots, miss holes completely.
And so
2 guys fill the same hole.
And so the question is like, what is that?
Yeah.
I don't think that's just because players are bad. I think it's repetition, and I think it's the standardized sort of teaching. And so maybe a reset in that regard is going to be good. Like I could see a world, or you will probably be able to convince me in a couple months that Rob Orich's defense is really taking hold. I don't know what they're going to do, but I just want to see it where they execute. Like, I want to see where they stand when they do the right things most of the time, as far as run fits are concerned on the defensive side of the ball. So I do believe that there is plenty of room for upward mobility
on the defensive
side. On the offensive side, I still am not sure where they're going.
I have a much tougher time painting a rosy picture on offense unless it's simply this. Jeep Wade and Lonnie Teasley turned Nebraska's offensive line into not just solid, but the literal strength of that offense. Because I don't know, even if at my most optimistic with Tony Calandria and Nebraska's wide receiver situation, I still have no idea how the running back thing is going to play out.
Yep.
And even if I allow for, hey, they like both of these guys quite a bit, and not one of them is going to replace Emmett Johnson, but in the aggregate, they're going to have a pretty good running back because they can swap guys in and out, and the line's going to do their job. Okay, great. How many points is that? Because Dana Holgorsen struggled to put up points with what I thought was a better offense last year of an All-American running back. And the Dylan Raiola conversation aside, I mean, they still didn't put up points by the end of the year. Whether you get into the Minnesota game or the first half against USC or what it looked like against Northwestern.
I mean, the point totals were,
once you got past the Minnesota or the Maryland game, it just nosedived.
17, 28, 10, 16, and 22 in the bowl game. And that was 6 coming off of Minnesota. I mean, we're talking about averaging in the high teens, probably.
And if you go the whole season of Power 4 opponents, they average 22 points a game.
Yep.
But that's not good enough.
No.
And if your defense is better, you create a better margin of error there. But I wonder realistically how many points per game you can put up against Big Ten competition with this group on offense. So that is the issue that I have. Now, maybe they're going to have a significantly better passing attack. Maybe the quarterback run game changes things up. There's lots of little things you can be like, well, if this happens and that happens and this happens. None of it matters if the offensive line isn't good.
True.
None of it matters if the offensive line isn't good.
Yep. So that is a little bit more of a difficult sell for me at this point. Let's ask this question to BC. Like, which would we be able to convince you is going to make a big leap? Offense, defense next year. Or
assuming one of them does, which is the more likely to make the big leap?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. So let's step aside and asked that very question to our good friend Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7, coming back on 1620 The Zone. Check out 1620thezone.com today and enter for the Get Your Bleep Together 5K sweepstakes. No, it's not a sweepstakes to be able to run a 5K. It's $5,000.
I learned that like yesterday.
That contest runs
I
through.
was prepping for the 5K, and then I found out I didn't need to.
No, it's very, very different. Through February 24th on 1620thezone.com. Here's a man who has his bleep together, Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7. BC, good morning. How are you?
I'm excellent. How are you guys?
Good. Okay, so we have sort of a hypothetical for you. We were just talking about for the last 20 minutes or so. If I were to tell you that one side of the ball, offense, defense for Nebraska football next year takes a big jump, which is the most likely side of the ball that happens to?
I think probably defense would win that poll, and that would be where I would cast my vote. Just
It's where our votes went.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense because you agree with my opinion, so of course I would say, yeah, you make sense. But yeah, I mean, with Rob Orich, I have an open mind and a lot of intrigue about what he's going to do and instill in those guys. I mean, I know he hasn't done it at the power conference level as a DC, but his quick turnarounds have been impressive. And if you look at like what San Diego State was even 2 years ago before he took over the defense, it was an incredible jump. Really, they were not very good on that side of the ball, and so because he's coming in and he handpicked his coaches, guys who sort of know how to instruct and teach it the way he wants it done. Especially when it comes to that front with his experience with Corey Brown and Roy Manning. And so you just sort of hope that takes us up the elevator a few floors on defense. And then I like Chambliss and McDougal coming in from San Diego State too on those back levels. I think under talked last year was the linebacker play and how average or sometimes below average it was, and I think they have an opportunity at that spot to make a big push.
So with kind of what you're describing there in terms of the defense being the more likely of the two, what have you kind of learned from just what you've read about Rob Orich and kind of what you've heard, I guess, when he's talked or Matt Rule's talked about him or anything else that would maybe allow for a transition to be, I don't know, quick is the right word, but a transition to happen in year one?
Well, I mean, every coach sort of says this, so you can kind of roll your eyes at it. But I think, like, if listening to Chambliss do a couple interviews and guys who have played for him, I think he plays to his players' strengths really well, is what they would say. And so I know, like, that was sort of like last year when we were talking about John Butler, that would have been something like he would have talked about too, right? Like, we're not going to put ourselves in a box and all that stuff. So some people are kind of skeptical when they hear that, but there are coaches who are very good at that. Like they know what their guys can't do as much as what they can, and they're able to play around what they can't do better than other coaches. And so you're sort of hoping that's a very true thing with him. And then I guess the teaching part has come out a lot. It's strange now because of what happened with Eckler, but I thought like he was sort of a model in some ways, it seemed to me, of like what you would want to bring in with the D coordinator too, where you have some energy. It doesn't mean that you get crazy on the sideline or whatever, but you got a guy with some juice that sort of gets guys to like, I do not want to fail for that coach. And Orich has seemed to do well at that with his players, where there's a lot of buy-in and they don't want to let him down, and he teaches well, it seems like. And so that's at least what has been said in the interviews, and it has showed up so far on the stats where he's been, and so we'll see if he can do it again. But that's what you're hoping for, I think, is that teaching part, that he has a way of making it simple to guys where this doesn't have to be a rocket science.
Let's flip it over to the other side of that equation. We all agree that defense would be the likelier decide to make a jump. So what needs to happen offensively for I don't know, is there anything that can happen on that side of the ball that would get you feeling like, hey, there's direction here and I feel confident about what they're going to do going into this season? Or are you officially in wait and see mode on the offense?
I mean, I'm in wait and see mode, but there's definitely stuff that can happen. I mean, that's why you bring in Jeep Wade and Lonnie Teasley and I know that like this was a big month for them where Jeep was going to get together with Dana from what we had heard and sort of go over some of the run things that Jeep has done at his previous stops. Obviously, they had a lot of success with a more mobile quarterback at Georgia Tech, very talented player. So you can't just necessarily mirror that exactly, but Nebraska is going in that direction where the QB spot is going to be a little bit more fleet of foot and you're going to have some options there. And so you hope that opens up some things. And then, you know, I want to see them be able to take the lid off a defense once in a while in the passing game. Like I understand the philosophy of get the ball to playmakers on the short stuff and they can turn a 5-yard play into a 55-yard play. But it really disappeared completely last year, partly with the lack of pass protection and all the sacks. But there just weren't like that like 50-yard pass play that would sometimes just give you life, you know, during a game. Everything had to be really fought for. And so I'd like to see some element of that pop up in this offense where you get a few of those stretch the field plays and make a defense at least have to respect it a bit.
Now that we're well beyond the portal, have you kind of looked at the wide receiver room and wondered aloud how they managed to keep all of these guys? Like you still have Isaiah Hunter, you still have Ja'Cory Barney, but in addition to that, you didn't lose Cortez Mills, you didn't lose Quinn Clark, you have Keelan Smith, you added Kwesi Gilmer, you're gonna get Janiron Bonner back, you added 2 guys in the 2026 class and in Larry Miles, who I think they're pretty excited about, and Alan Scott. I mean, they have a very deep wide receiver room. Does that lead you to believe that there's a chance that we can see a lot more from the receivers than we did in 2025?
Yeah, I hope so. You know, Mike, that for off seasons,
we
forever,
talk a lot about wide receivers and the production is yet to follow.
Yeah.
So here you are talking about receivers when I asked the question.
No, it's a good question because on paper it does look good, but it's one of those where I'm trying to be hesitant with the stuff in this off season, especially this early, where it's like, yeah, I think it's really going to take off or not. But they did do a good job on the first level of this at retaining guys. I mean, that was probably the biggest story of the whole portal season for Nebraska football. Whether people think the guys they're bringing back have it within them to develop to the level that's needed to be a top team in the Big Ten, that's a question they're going to have to prove, and there's going to be a lot of doubters about that. But I do understand Nebraska's a philosophy like, hey, we've got some guys that were like second or third year players in this program last season that we really liked, and we don't want to like now see them like the Princewell thing where he's playing, you know, for Ole Miss in the playoff sort of deal. Like, we're developing these guys. Let's see this to the finish line, and we think these guys can really play at this level. That definitely applies, I think, to wide receiver. Isaiah Hunter, I thought, as disjointed as that season was, especially sometimes on offense, had a nice statistical season, and maybe they don't win a game or two without him, really. I mean, with his explosive touchdowns where he took short passes and made them 50, 60-yard plays stood out, and his catch at Arrowhead stood out. So that's huge to get him back. Ja'Cory, I wondered how much he was dealing with like injury throughout that year. I don't know if that will come out or what he would say about it, but I felt like he maybe just wasn't his full speed at times. So I'm interested if he can get some juice back as he heals up. But Quinn Clark's the guy of the ones you mentioned. I'm really eager to see what he can do in 26 because I think he's a great athlete. who seems to go about it the right way from everything we heard. And he made a couple plays, as bad as that bowl game was, where you're like, okay, that's a nice one-on-one win that can translate maybe in the next year.
Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7 is with us. BC, let's go on to Sunday with basketball, another big one. But I don't, as tired as Nebraska maybe seemed at the end of that game, and as shorthanded as they were against Michigan, I don't have the feeling that Nebraska is like licking their wounds here at all going into this Illinois game, especially when you consider they might get a couple more important pieces back. How does this thing set up to you as it looks for Nebraska and Illinois on Sunday?
Well, I think it's going to be an absolute war. I mean, Illinois wants payback for what happened in Champaign, and they're capable of it. But Nebraska, I wrote this the other day. I know, like, the focus has been so much on whatever the bracketologist spreadsheet says on that particular Thursday or whatever, or the rankings Nebraska has in the AP poll. I'm interested in the Big Ten conference race.
Me too.
After that game, two nights ago, Indiana Purdue's playing while I was writing my story in the background, and I'm like watching it thinking like, ooh, this is going to ding Purdue in the standings. And, like, I'm starting to do the math and like who plays who, and it's stuff like that. I mean, in my lifetime, and I feel like it's fair, we're halfway through this thing now, 10 games in, we can talk about the race. And so this is a game that hits on that times 100 with what it means to both sides. Nebraska would have a full tiebreaker edge on Illinois. The crowd is going to be just lit up for that game. But yeah, I think you're right, Connor. I don't think they're a squad that's going to be licking their wounds or anything. I think that they didn't like how losing tasted, but the way they have not got a big head when they have won at the level they have makes me think they're also going to be the type of team that doesn't slouch in their seat when they have one result that goes the way they didn't hope. So I'm excited about the game, but I'm just all into this race. Like, I think in my lifetime, Nebraska's never been in a spot where I thought like they're actually in the regular season conference race in men's basketball. Even in the Danny Nee years, they had good teams, but I followed those teams closely as a kid. I never thought like they're going to unseat Kansas or something, you know, in the regular season. This is uncharted territory to even like have the conversation at least.
You're in luck this weekend because think about it this way. Every one-loss team in the Big Ten, Michigan, Michigan State, Nebraska, Illinois. Illinois plays Washington tonight. Let's just assume that they win at home and move to 9-1 with everybody else. They all play each other on Friday and Sunday.
An incredible schedule to have these four teams all playing each other for the most part.
It's awesome.
It's just really good.
Yeah, it is. And so I hope people dial into that part of it now, that part of the conversation. Obviously, this is a big one, and you don't have much margin for error to win the conference. I mean, I don't know what it's going to take, if it's going to be like maybe 16-4 can get it or something like that. But there's a tough slate ahead of Nebraska. But I feel like that game Tuesday night had to it was strange. Like sometimes we talk about moral victories and we're trying to squint to make something seem good when it's really not. You still lost. That was definitely a strange case where Nebraska lost a sporting event. And I walked away from it like thinking far greater thoughts than I did at 6 p.m. that night, but before they lost the game, you know, like I just didn't think they could do what they did with the situation they were in. And it showed me don't put a lid on these guys. And the top 7 in that rotation, however they decide to put them on the floor, they're all capable the way they connected to each other to compete with anybody. They just need all 7 instead of 5. And then you don't have legs that are jello in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to ask what, if anything, we learned, and then also what we think the team learned from Tuesday's game. I mean, you played shorthanded, you played on the road, you played on short rest, and you played effectively and pushed Michigan all the way to the brink. Do you think there's something that they can take out of that beyond just the, feel good about being competitive? Like, Do you think there's something else in there?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I think the biggest thing is probably going into that game. I don't know that they felt it because I think they've always had such high belief in what they can do. But you looked at Michigan's resume and you did see, like, I mean, even the day before, and Fred really talks up other teams as he should the day before, but he was pointing out, they beat Gonzaga, Michigan did, by 40 points, and they beat this team by 30 and 35 and all this stuff. And so you go into a game like that, and I wonder if Nebraska's players thought at all, like, okay, how do we really match up with this one particular team? We think we're really good, but are we like Final Four, top 5 type of good? Are we that type of team? They might have already thought that. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I think that's maybe what was learned. Like you're 12 minutes into that game, and I'm guessing those guys on the court are like, this is the same old for us. We can compete with these guys. They've got us. They've got advantages in certain spots, but we're able to cover it this way and that way. And as far as what you can take that where you learned a lesson, that's a hard one for me to answer because I thought that particular game, as much as anything, came down to the fact that like Price Sanford had to play like 39 minutes, and if maybe he plays 35 and gets those 2 extra little breaks where he goes to the bench for 2 minutes, he's not 5 of 16 from 3. Maybe he's like 7. He hits 7 of them. He hits 2 more of those jumpers that were open, and maybe that's the difference. And so I don't know. I was really impressed from that game, so I'm kind of gushing about a loss, but that's how I felt about their performance. But now it's like, okay, go do it again Sunday because you got to go into this game like it's every bit as hard, because I think it will be.
All right, BC, we'll let you go. Enjoy the rest of your week and have fun on Sunday.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Brian Christopherson from Husker 24/7. Look at that. Michigan State tomorrow, Nebraska and Illinois on Sunday. That is assuming that Nebraska's going to play Illinois on Sunday, but let's assume that Illinois wins tonight at home against Washington. Purdue, UCLA, Wisconsin are the 3 loss teams in the league.
Yeah, it really kind of breaks out. We should dive into this here.
Yeah, let's do it. We'll do it at the top of the we'll
in the 9 o'clock hour.
Right at the top of the 9 o'clock hour. But first, we'll be back after this on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back. Happer and Schaefer, 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com. Brett McMurphy just dropped in a story on On3. This is very similar to what we talked about the other day when we told you all that the college football playoff will not be expanding past 12 for the time being. And why did we say that? Because we said that the Big Ten and the SEC's own stupidity has actually led to a good thing in stupidity / stubbornness, all these different things. And Brett McMurphy basically just wrote the same thing. He writes, even though all 10 conference commissioners and Notre Dame athletic director Pete Bavacqua preferred the college football playoff to expand next season, the playoff announced last week the current 12-team playoff format would continue. Everyone wants more teams in the playoff, but they're staying at 12. Why? Well, the official reason from Rich Clark is this, quote, gives the management committee additional time to review the 12-team format so they could better assess the need for potential change. While they all agree the current format has brought more excitement to the playoff and has given more schools a shot in the postseason, another year of evaluation would be helpful. The reasoning, McMurphy writes, how can I put this, is BS. Look, don't blame Clark. He's just the messenger. The blame lies directly with the two, and the two are the Big Ten and the SEC. My question is this. Why? Like, I am in no way defending the stupidity and the idiocy of the Big Ten and the SEC commissioners. In no way am I doing this. But like I said,
I am not standing in front of that train as it comes through.
I would never. However, what is this? Why do we have such a strong pull to expand? I don't get it.
I don't either.
Why is this viewed as such a bad thing?
I don't need more than 12. Like I am very comfortable with what we've seen the last 2 years, that you can definitively get a great playoff system with what you have. We've seen a little bit of everything. We've seen the number one go down. We've seen the number one win the national title. We've seen teams make a run from the back that barely got in. We saw, twice. We've seen the 2-loss team reach the national championship.
Yep.
So it is to me, like we've gotten exactly what you want out of this playoff format. So why do we have to add more teams that only really serves to water it down?
And remember, the Big Ten and the SEC were arguing between 16 and 24, which all led this to no change whatsoever, which apparently, and I guess I hadn't had my finger on the pulse of what everybody else wants at this point because I've been so focused on the stupidity of the Big Ten and the SEC. But I guess there's this pull for everybody else to want more teams into the playoff too. I don't know. I just, like, from the conference standpoint, in a world where everybody is looking out for themselves, I get it. They're all trying to pull for more teams from their conferences to get into the playoff. But from a viewer standpoint, and from a person who enjoys fun and a person who enjoys consistency and like knowing what it takes to actually get into the playoff, I just don't see why there's this constant need to uproot it all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
I don't understand.
We've been here for 2 years.
I don't understand what a 16 or a 24-team playoff does. I don't need to see Tennessee in a playoff when they didn't beat anybody with a winning record.
Right.
I don't there's one team that I can think of across 2 years that I felt like should have been in the playoff and wasn't, and that was Notre Dame.
Notre Dame this year.
And they are at the mercy of having lost to Miami, which took their spot,
right?
And the 2 group of 5 teams because the ACC was ridiculous this year. And their tiebreaker didn't allow for Miami to play in the conference championship game that would have prevented a lot of this from even happening. That all being said, very rarely, can you think of another team where you're like, because even Texas, 3-loss Texas,
and
I didn't need to see them in the college football playoff.
I mean, Schaefer, even when we were at 4, there was only 2 times where we did that for 10 years? There was only 2 times where it was ooh, that was a really difficult decision. So, it was the undefeated Florida State team, obviously, and that was the last year of 4.
The undefeated Florida State team for sure.
And there was a TCU thing, the year that TCU went to the Natty.
Well, no, there was a TCU thing the year that Ohio State won the national championship. The TCU got left out in favor of an Ohio State team on their 3rd-string quarterback that ended up winning the national title, so it didn't matter.
Right.
Some of it for me was it made the conference championship super weird because you have Wisconsin, which seemingly can't get in at 11-1, and they have to win this game in order to get into the college football playoff. But Alabama can just back into it
Right.
while Auburn doesn't get to go. But that was, for the restrictive nature of it with the conference championship made it really hard. And I felt like there was arguments to be made there. I don't think that's true with beyond 10 to 11 teams.
Right.
I mean, you get that in there.
But my point was, like,
Yeah.
you've only had one or two extra teams
There's-
over the duration
right.
of this playoff, and now we're going to go we're going to kick the can, or everybody wants to apparently, even further down the line and go to 16 or 24, and we're still talking about some at-large bids in there, which leave it open to debate. Like, and the further we go out, if we go to 24 and we're still talking about a handful of at-large teams, I mean, consider the teams that we'll be talking about. 24 teams. It will be
Iowa,
teams who
Illinois.
went 5-4 in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
When we're at the back end of the top 25.
I don't think it's necessary to do that.
I don't either. But everybody else apparently thinks it is.
I would love to stay at 12. I could live with 16. I think 24 is ridiculous. Here's the other thing. We keep talking about how you're going to condense the schedule. If you keep adding more playoff games, how are you going to condense the schedule? You're already very wishy-washy on getting them to play in a 7-day window. We already pretend like finals makes this impossible for, as if the academics is really a question here.
Very much matters.
So how do you make that work within a schedule? I have no idea. Unless you go back to playing 8 conference games and you eliminate a week in the calendar.
And that would be an even further upheaval of college football, which famously I love doing.
Yeah.
No, why don't we just keep it for a little while?
Stay at 12.
So shout out to the Big Ten and the SEC for
being ridiculous,
for being idiots and never agreeing, just on principle disagreeing with the other side, because it has led us to at least one more year of a 12-team playoff format. Which
I genuinely would love to hear from Tony Petitti as to why 24 teams make sense without him basically just spouting a bunch of nonsense.
Get more teams in.
Yeah, about
That's it.
Just getting more Big Ten teams in.
That would be it. Let's take a break. Let's talk about that Big Ten basketball conference race that we just spoke about there. And then Max Tolson will join us a few minutes after that. We'll be back 9 o'clock hour up next on 1620 The Zone. Folks, we have a weekend ahead of us in Big Ten basketball. I agree completely with Brian Christopherson's sentiment, which was, I don't know about you guys, like you might wake up today and you check all the bracketologies and you want to see the fact that, you want to see Nebraska be a 1 seed, or you want to see who's on the bubble, or like whatever it is. And I get it. The sport is definitely geared toward the NCAA tournament, but I'm with BC from the sense of you get a chance to win a Big Ten title. You get a chance to win a Big Ten title, and the rest will take care of itself after that. If Nebraska does win a regular season Big Ten title, they're going to be in pretty good shape for a 1 seed.
They're going to be a 1 seed.
The winner of the Big Ten will be a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. So there's that piece of it already. And then you look ahead to like what we have Friday, Michigan State and Michigan. Those are 1-loss teams. And then Sunday, Nebraska and Illinois. Those are both going to be 1-loss teams should Illinois win tonight against Washington. That's the top of the league. There's a couple of teams that are waiting in the lurch there as well, with 3 losses at this point. This is great. This is the stuff, Schaefer.
Yeah, it's fantastic when you actually look through it and you look at Nebraska's side of things. And it's not to say that they have a light schedule, because they still have Illinois and Purdue, but compared to their I guess, who they're up against to potentially win the Big Ten, they don't have as many games against the top teams. They have to take care against the bottom of the schedule. They got to beat the Marylands and the Penn States and the Northwesterns and there's one other team in there, Rutgers. And they have those 4 games. And then the other big portion of it for them is that week out in LA.
Yep.
The last 3 games that they play.
Tricky.
If Nebraska wins the Big Ten tournament, if they win the Big Ten regular season title, a lot of it is going to come down to they have to take care of 2 big road games out in LA, a week stretch where they're going to have to figure out if they're just out there that whole week. It seems like they will be.
Well, yeah, it's a Saturday, Tuesday, so certainly.
It's not as bad. That's not as bad. I was thinking it was
Friday,
the other way around. I was thinking it was a Tuesday into a Saturday.
Yeah, they'll be fine.
And then they finish at home against Iowa, and those Iowa games are going to be tough. Like Iowa's in the middle right now of the Big Ten. They just had a huge win against USC, I believe, last night.
That's right.
And those games are going to be difficult too. But the thing Nebraska has going for it is Michigan's first game against any of the top teams tied was on Tuesday against Nebraska. So they still have to play Purdue. They still have to play Illinois. They still play Michigan State twice. So that I'm glad you mentioned this, because I hadn't really looked at it that way. Yeah, no, that's why I broke it all out last night, because I just kept like looking at it like this. There's a world where Nebraska plays the least amount of these teams, and they could be in the position to really be the number 1 out of the Big Ten.
So think about it this way. Not only does Michigan play Michigan State tomorrow, and again to finish off the regular season, but their last, let's do their last 6 games on the regular season.
It's about 3 weeks.
3 weeks, starting February 17th. At Purdue, and then they go to DC to play Duke, which obviously doesn't count for conference standings, but it's sandwiched in the Big Ten schedule.
What a game, by the way.
Nobody would want, nobody in their right mind wants to play Purdue and Duke in a 4-day stretch, which is what Michigan is going to have to do in late February. Home against Minnesota, and then at Illinois, at Iowa, and home against Michigan State to finish off the regular season. And obviously Michigan is probably the best of those group of teams, sans Duke, that I mentioned right there. Although you could convince me that Illinois and Michigan State are better. But chances are they take a couple losses in there. And so
it'd be impressive for them to go 6-0 in that stretch.
Michigan State, they still have a road game at Purdue. They still have the road game at Michigan. They still have Michigan tomorrow. They still have Illinois left on the schedule. And so everybody's got tough competition, I think, down the stretch. But then you're starting to figure out a number. What do you need to get to in order to win the Big Ten Conference? And is it possible that, will 17-3 do it? Is that the target? Nebraska being 9-1 right now through 10 games, and with a chance to jump ahead of another team that's in its tier on Sunday, is going to be feeling really good about themselves because they have 3 games against plus 100, net teams in the final 9 games of the regular season. That's a third of the games are against bad teams. And then there's another third against middling teams. There's a home game with Northwestern, and then the 2 road games to USC and UCLA, which are a little bit more challenging. But those are on there too. And then your big ones against Illinois and Purdue. And I would put probably Iowa to finish off the regular season in that big category too.
Yeah, I think what's most likely to happen is the team that can get to 17 wins the Big Ten. I think you're likely to see several teams get to 16-4.
Yep.
I think that's kind of where Nebraska's sort of lined up to me to be at. And some of it is if they win on Sunday, they will have the tiebreaker against Illinois for the season, 2-0.
Yep.
They have the tiebreaker against Michigan State because they went 1-0 in that one game they played at home. And they won't have it against Michigan because they lost at Michigan. So they would be in a really, really strong spot. And the other piece of all of this is if Nebraska takes care of the business that it can against those bottom 4 and does well enough in the other 6 games, they will unequivocally be in the top 4 in the conference. Like it would be hard for them to fall out if they win out against those lower teams and then split.
I mean, I'm almost confident in saying that they're going to get a double bye like right now. Like
it's very, very close to that,
Yeah.
but they have to take care of business.
Yeah.
And if they win on Sunday, then I think the answer to that is almost assuredly yes.
Right.
But, there's a world where Purdue, who has lost 3 times already in conference play, turns it on and is the world beater.
I would
imagine
they'll get back into the thick of things.
And they could finish 15-5 and be right there, so it is a really interesting stretch for a lot of these Big Ten teams in the month of February. Like Nebraska has done a bunch of its heavy lifting early and then now has to take care of business. Like they can't stub their toe.
I keep thinking about how good, what's funny. We were talking about football and the topic of conversation has been the schedule over the last couple of days. And I mentioned this several weeks ago with Nebraska basketball. I just think the schedule broke really right for them.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you have to be a really good team and I'm not taking any credit away from them, but to get Illinois right away, because I feel like the thing that, and this is Nebraska is doing, Nebraska has going for them is what other teams don't develop until around this time of the year. And so playing Illinois right out of the gate, I think was huge. And then having Michigan State at home right around New Year's, I think was a big opportunity for them. And they went out and they got it right. Like, I think it broke right for them. And like you just mentioned here, you look at the finish after they've put themselves in position and it looks like one of the more navigable ones amongst the Big Ten contenders at this moment. Yeah. So I think that, there's a lot of stuff that has to go right in a lightning in a bottle, like special season, like they're having right now. And the schedule is one of them. And I do think they've reaped the benefits from it.
Yeah. And it just makes Sunday feel huge. Even coming off of that loss, like that loss almost means nothing. Like a win clearly would have meant the world given the circumstances. But if you can just pull the 1-1 out of this week, you have to feel like you've really set yourself up for big things.
Yeah.
And they already have, but it goes to another level. Like there's a bit of a drop if you go 0-2 this week.
Jason writes in on Twitter. He says, the way I've been thinking about it is Nebraska's in the pole position getting into the last half of league play.
It does feel that way.
They have qualified first. This is the Big Ten NASCAR race.
Their time trials were so good.
They were number 1 in the time trials. It doesn't guarantee that you win it, but it does, it gives you a pretty good shot to do so.
An already special season, and people do they need to lose whatever that conversation was?
Oh yeah,
an already special season, and you still have so much more out there. Like it's just an incredible year for Nebraska basketball.
Tomorrow we will preview Nebraska and Illinois with Jeremy Werner, who we love talking to about the Illini. He's all over both football and basketball for them. We're just going to talk about Keaton Wagler, I think, for about 15 minutes with him. So
I'll slip in a question about what happens post Luke Altmaier.
Oh, good one. What does happen post Luke Altman?
That's what we're gonna find
All
out.
right, we'll find out with Jeremy tomorrow. We'll take a break. Our next guest, Max Olson from ESPN, joins us on the other side on 1620 The Zone. But first, football's biggest game is right around the corner. You can get in on all the action with Underdog right now in Nebraska. If you're not on Underdog yet, then what in the world are you doing, first of all? But second of all, I have good news for you. New customers score $75 in fantasy bonus entries when you make your first $5 fantasy entry. Playing on Underdog is easy. Head to the app, make picks on a player on if they will go higher or lower, like touchdowns, rushing yards, receptions, and more. If you get those right, you can win up to 5,000 times your cash. And there's new promos dropping daily in the app. So if you like making picks and if you like winning money, then Underdog is the place for you. I'm looking at it right now on Underdog. How about Sam Darnold for the big game? Mike Schaefer might be interested in it. 229.5 passing yards, higher or lower. You could check that out for the big game coming up. Schaefer says higher. What are you waiting for? Download the app today. Use promo code HAPPER1620 to score $75 in fantasy bonus entries when you play your first $5 on fantasy. Promo code HAPPER1620. Underdog, make picks, win money. Must be 19 plus at present. Nebraska terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/playing get terms _DFS_.html for details. Consider with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Never a dull moment as far as the transfer portal / buyouts / settlements / all that stuff is concerned, and that's why we have Max Olson from ESPN joining us now on the Prairie Flower Casino Zone hotline. Hi, Max. Good morning. How are you?
What up? I'm good. Appreciate y'all having me on.
Of course. So I do want to go back eventually to the Dabo calling out LSU story, but let's start here with the news of the week with Darian Mensah, who was the quarterback at Duke who signed last offseason and then tried to leave in the transfer portal, and there was suing and there was a contract and there was a settlement, and bang, he's at Miami. To really nobody's surprise. I mean, is there anything from this that we could take that is like that is not really negative for the sport or is viewed that way? Or I guess, how are you looking at this, Max?
Yeah, I think that I think you could tell that people were like hoping that this like went further in court and we could maybe like explore that realm of like how do we deal with this stuff here going forward. But I think the most likely outcome was always going to be that that Duke and Darian Mensah and his reps came to an agreement on a compromise of like, all right, Duke, you're going to get some money back and you're going to let us go. And that's just the clean way to wrap this up. And that they did that to Duke's satisfaction, apparently. I think the thing that like you see a lot of like anonymous quotes and frustration about this stuff, but like the reality is like you say like, oh, well, these contracts don't mean anything. It's like, well, they don't mean anything from the sense that they can't force a player to stay at your school for a year or 2 years or 4 years. Like that is, if they want to leave, they're going to leave. So really right now the contracts you're just trying to establish, recourse. Like, hey, if you're going to leave, you're going to break the contract, then we get money back. Then there's going to be implications to that. And you've seen, different schools are papering that different ways. And that's being tested right now, as you'd expect. I think it'll probably be tested again here in the spring if guys try to make moves outside of the portal window. I think ultimately, like, a lot of people are going to put blame on the player and the fact that he's going to his third school in 3 years and stuff like that. But I think the other side of this, the reality is that as the deadline was approaching here for the 16th for the portal, like Miami was throwing big offers at quarterbacks. It was, well documented that, they offered Ty Simpson like $6.5 million, and I've heard of several other quarterbacks they made that offer to. They did the same thing last year. They made a big offer to Quinn Ewers before they signed Carson Beck. So that's kind of what Miami does. And eventually the number got so big that somebody was going to take it. And I haven't seen people really kind of like take issue with Miami doing that. But that's certainly what set all this in motion.
Well, right. Like eventually, Max, the schools themselves and the coaches themselves have to stop. Right? Like the
adults are doing it. I mean,
it is the adults. Here. You're right. Exactly. And so I think that's maybe one of the things that is a through line in all this stuff is it's just going to keep happening. And college football has always been a sport that, is where there's people trying to find edges. And as long as we go, there will always be that happening.
Right. And if any of this stuff, if you set deadlines on this, then, for Darian Mensah and for his reps, like, in December they were thinking about entering the draft and then decided they weren't ready to enter the draft and you decided to stay at Duke. But, you've got this deadline coming up, and that's the thing that there's always frustrated coaches is they hated that with the spring portal is like it's another moment of like unlimited leverage for the player. But as you get close to that deadline, like, yeah, people are going to start making you offers that are well over what your current school is providing you. And, honestly, guys, when I talk to agents and about kind of where we're at right now, most of the time, these guys are not just like leaving for just $1 more at the next place. Like it takes a lot of money to want to make these kinds of moves. But you get to the point of desperation like Miami did, and that dollar figure, hits unprecedented levels. And it's like, okay, well, we have to actually think about this.
So who actually pays the buyout, or how does that work? Does it work against the next school's rev share? Is the next school on the hook for the buyout for Mensah? Like, what does that sort of look like from a mechanical standpoint?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, and that was something that popped up with the Damon Williams Jr. situation of like, so I believe the way they wrote it up, it would have been, LSU paying, I think, $4 million for Damon Williams, and that would have been $4 million against their cap. And I think that became a situation that's like, well, wait, that's pretty untenable. Like, you should stay at Washington. And, that was resolved within 48 hours. How this one gets worked out is a good question. I assume, it's $1 million or $2 million. I assume it's a multi-million-dollar thing here, this settlement with Duke. And is that coming directly from Miami? Is that coming out of the money that Miami is paying Darian Mensah, and therefore some of that's going back to Duke? Like, I'd be curious to know kind of how that works. And then obviously, guys, like, I know we're living in a time where like nobody takes enforcement seriously and stuff, but like, if this is a deal that is like largely outside of rev share, then like that's also just going to get a lot of scrutiny from the CFC and the people who want to start policing this stuff. So like where that money is coming from, and how much of it is getting redirected to Duke is a pretty interesting question.
Well, and there's no way that it's not outside of rev share. Right? We're talking about multi-million dollars and a $20.5 million athletic department wide thing. Like, there's no way it's not coming from outside of that, right?
Yeah, and I think part of that is like, and that was last year. This was like, it was like the way around it was more straightforward. It was like, okay, we're going to front load this stuff before July when the House settlement is finally approved, and so it's going to be free for all. We're going to spend all this money and use our collective money and do that. Now it's a little bit, it's much murkier, I would say, and it really varies from school to school. Of okay, we're going to go through this portal period. And we're going to, put in writing, hey, we're going to pay you this amount of money. And now that the portal's closed, now we're going to have to figure out how to actually get you that money. And especially if it's not fully from rev share and it's from third party money, and your Playflies and your MMRs, all that kind of stuff, or even Adidas and the shoe companies and stuff. Like, there's a lot of like, all right, you're going to get this money in 26, but we got to figure out how that's going to come in. And so. I do think we're going to see situations this spring and summer where it's like, wait a minute, we are not getting paid what we thought we were getting paid.
Right. Yeah.
I am curious, kind of coming out of that, and this dovetails with it a little bit here, Max. But like, have you noticed teams shift their strategy and how they are utilizing the portal, or in what way they're utilizing NIL in the portal, or anything of that nature from kind of when this really popped up a few years ago to where we are now? Like, has there been a strategy shift in certain ways?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that in the past you would talk to GMs, especially at like, programs that recruit at a top 10, top 15 level. And it was always like, yeah, we just want to take like 5 to 10 transfers. Like, we don't want to go crazy. Like, that's not really what we do. We want to go next man up, and we have all these blue chip players and all that kind of stuff. And like, God, I think you've seen guys, especially at the Power 4 level, like, we've just really normalized in these last 2 off seasons, and really this off season, that the taking 20 to 30 in a portal class. And that's just not a thing that people were really had the capability of doing in the past. And, I think there's a lot that goes into that strategy. Part of it is just like high turnover and just, okay, guys that aren't going to play, guys that aren't going to contribute for us, like, they're going to go, and we're going to replace them and just try to upgrade every roster spot here. And part of it is, especially this offseason, like, backups are expensive. Like, everybody's expensive. And so you have to make these decisions on, are you willing to pay this guy, $350, or are you willing to go in the portal and try and find someone cheaper or similar? And I think that's just, you have those decisions, but it's for like all 105 guys. And so, I think that has fed into like, just, it's a high turnover thing right now. And when you have unlimited transfers, then, you're just continuing to see these guys that go to 3 schools in 3 years or 4 and 5 years or whatever. And so, yeah, I think part of it is just everybody knows you have to go do a lot now. And there's not that many programs that are just kind of like, we're sitting this out. And shoot, as you saw with Clemson taking more transfers than ever before, it's like, you kind of, especially if you're struggling, like, you just have to kind of accept, like, we have to get in this game and we have to go spend.
Perfect segue into what Dabo Swinney had to say, where he was naming names, specifically Pete Golding, the Ole Miss head coach, who, he said that he texted one of the players, that Golding texted one of his players that had transferred to him in the transfer portal from Cal, quote, "I know you're signed, but what's the buyout?" And then sent him a picture of $1 million contract, which, I think all of this sounds, I mean, it sounds, eye-opening. But maybe I was amazed, Max, like did it have the effect, like the ground shaking effect that I think it was probably intending to have? Like I didn't feel as much outrage to this as I thought there might have been, or certainly that there would have been like a handful of years ago.
No, it's a good point. First of all, I think people are it's one of those situations where finally, like, somebody is like handing this over to the NCAA on a silver platter. And so I think there's a lot of people who are just like, okay, guys, like, they're giving you a pretty strong case here. They're giving you documentation. They're giving you all this. Like, and one of the things Dabo said, and I think he's totally right about this, is like, guys, this should not be a 3-year or 3-month investigation. Like, this should take 3 days. This is pretty straightforward.
I did it for you.
Yeah, that's right. And so I think, first of all, people would love to see the NCAA actually like take a stand on this kind of stuff and have the ability to actually go after people. If you would hear all the time people saying, "Oh, we've really like got them dead to rights on tampering on this stuff," and you just never hear any follow up and follow through. And shoot, that's the irony, is you're hearing that from Ole Miss people of like, man, LSU is doing some really dirty stuff, and we're building a case, and we're going to turn that in, and we're going to get them. And it's like, okay, like, but I think that's where, there's some of this is just like the game is the game. And like, yes, I think Luke Ferrelli being at Clemson for a week and then asking to go back in the portal is that I would say that's a pretty extreme example. I think the head coach directly contacting you when you're on at another school, very brazen. That's something that a few years ago coaches just would never do. Like, they would be terrified of screenshots and getting turned in and all that kind of stuff. But I think it does reflect that, like, we are in this just like very lawless time where nobody's afraid of enforcement or policing of any of this stuff. And so you got to do what you got to do. And I think that's to say, like, I don't care what's the buyout is, I think, kind of reflective of how some of these guys are looking at this right now, is like, I need to get the player. It costs what it costs. Like, tell me what it costs and let's figure this out. And so I think it's, Dabo and Clemson are like totally right to be disgusted by all of that. And, I think, to be honest with you guys, in the past, I would hear these kinds of stories from people about like prominent players. And I would say, like, okay, well, why don't you put that out there? Like, why not go public with this? And I think ADs are generally like, might not look good.
Because they're all doing it.
Like, we like the kid. Well, let's get to that. But, we like the kid. We don't want to like cause all this trouble. And so generally people kind of send this. So it's kind of the perfect storm where Clemson doesn't know Luke Ferrelli. He's been there for a week. So it's sort of like, hey, whatever. Like, let's lay it all out there. And then Clemson, Dabo has the moral high ground here because Dabo has stayed out of the portal. So he doesn't do this stuff. And so he can say, like, these people are like, this is crazy. This whole thing is broken. And the other thing is, you're exactly right, Mike. It's glass houses, man. Like, that's the real reason why coaches don't have to go after other coaches on this stuff, is because anyone can be called out for the stuff they're doing too. And so how do we like actually fix this, I think, is an interesting question. But at the same time, like, I don't think the coaches really want strict policing on this stuff. They want to do whatever they want, and they want to just work with an agent and pre-portal and line all this stuff line all this stuff up in advance. And when the portal's open, they think everything's fair game.
Max, now that there's only one portal cycle, what do you do with all this massive amount of free time that you've just inherited in your life?
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's time to get the stick skills back, with the NCAA 26.
Okay.
We got to get that going.
Find a transfer portal of your own to tamper with.
Yeah, exercise would be good. Like, I would maybe love it if it would stop snowing and we could kind of get back to that. So yeah, definitely have been in hibernation mode here for the past month. It's a great question. And look, hopefully these coaches aren't out here pulling a bunch of BS with the portal here in the spring and trying to make moves, and we're stretching this thing out into the spring. I'm a little nervous that like that will happen, that there will be cases of guys just being like, I don't care what the rules are, I need to leave. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we don't have a lot of that, and we can enjoy some time off here.
All right, Max. Well, I wish you good luck in that category. That's for sure. Thanks for joining us as always. Appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Bye, Max.
Appreciate you guys.
Max Olson from ESPN.
A little dial tone at the end there, too.
Yeah, it's quick hang up. I don't think that he's going to get the free time that you proffered there for.
I hope he gets it, but I too suspect that this no portal, that once again, the people who constantly look around and ask, why are things like this? I don't like it, are the people that help make the decisions that led to no portal are going to be like, I don't want this malcontent here. He's not happy in my program. I don't want him. I want this other guy. He's interesting. Let's bring him in.
But specifically the situation that with Mensa, like you can see it from Miami's point of view. Like if Nebraska was sitting here today, quarterbackless, right? And the news broke that they were probably about to get Darian Mensa or whatever.
Yeah.
And he just has to sue his own school or whatever to get out of it. People would be like,
say that sentence again as if it's the most normal thing in the world.
People would be like, bleep, yeah, man, I'm good with that. Like, I need a quarterback. So the desperation part is such a factor, and people are going to be desperate.
I totally get it from Miami's point of view. I guess the pushback there would be there's this entire area that you can shop in, and yet you're going into people's homes and trying to buy the groceries out of their pantry.
I'm not saying it's right, but like when you put yourself in their shoes, you're like, oh, wow.
What I'm saying
okay,
is I can put myself in their shoes, and you still don't have to go into people's houses and try to buy the pantry.
That's true.
You can go to the literal store where the stuff is for sale.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what they're doing.
But that stuff isn't ready made for you. It's,
right.
You have to buy the ingredients.
Now, why are they not going and trying to get Kenny Minchie? Probably because Darian Mensa was second in college football in passing yards.
They like TV dinners, like you could put them in the microwave and they're done. They don't want to go to the store and buy the freaking ingredients.
Oh, man. TV dinners.
You're telling me I got to cut up the onions and the stuff to put in there?
No, what they want is swans to come back
they
and bring it right to their house. They got them in a truck. That's what they want.
That's what they're doing.
They don't want to go to the store.
This is the modern day Schwann's man.
They want the Schwann's man to show up with the portal.
That's what the
portal is Schwann's.
Miami just Schwann's Duke. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
It works for us.
All right, we'll be back and round things out after this on 1620 The Zone. Once again, don't forget tomorrow from 10 to 6, 1620 The Zone out at Hope Lodge. Drop your paper products there and come out and see us from 10 to 6. Matt will be there. I will drop by after the show ends. We will be in studio tomorrow, for the record. Schaefer, don't need to worry about looking nice or anything like that.
No, I never worry about
We
that.
don't do many road shows here in the morning show.
We're okay with that.
I kind of am too,
So
for the record.
don't need to get somewhere at 5:15 to help set it up.
But if we did ever do our show from England or like Australia or something, I guess I don't know what time it is in Australia now.
It's like 17 hours ahead.
17 ahead. What time is it?
So it would be 2 in the
Sydney?
morning over there.
It is 2 in the morning. So it wouldn't make
Look
sense.
at Joey.
It wouldn't make sense for us to do a show.
Backtrack 7 hours, Mike.
Yeah, Mike. Figure it out.
Happer's over here just like
I don't know.
typing away.
It's 2:42 in Australia.
It wouldn't make much sense for us to do a show from 11 p.m. to 3 a.m.
Probably not.
But
You're doing a show tomorrow
anyway,
as at today.
I still want to go to Australia. Okay, so Schaefer put this story on the rundown today. Jason Williams. You remember Jason Williams?
Not that Jason Williams.
Not that Jason
and not
Williams.
that Jason Williams.
The
But
Jason,
Jason Williams.
and they referred to him as
Well,
just Jason Williams.
he went by, here are all his nicknames: White Chocolate, J Dub,
It's White
J
Chocolate.
Will, White Folks,
We were
The White
looking
Shadow,
for White Chocolate.
Duck, Showtime.
I never called him Duck. No one ever called him Duck.
It's on his BREF page.
Okay, pick any other player and see what nicknames pop up on there.
Give me a player.
Do Peja Stojakovic. See what you get there.
That's a former Sacramento King.
In honor of Nebraska playing Illinois on Sunday.
You picked a player that there was never a listed nickname.
How's that possible?
I was really hoping there'd be something like Easy P.
Nobody ever called him that. She called Peja Stojakovic Easy P.
Full question.
There are some messed up nicknames on there on that sports
No,
records page.
I agree. That's why I found it funny though.
Anyway, here's the story. His White Chocolate's game-worn home Sacramento Kings jersey from the lockout shortened 98-99 season,
His rookie year.
has sold for $140,000. It is the most spent on any Jason Williams item. And apparently this is the photo. This is the jersey used in the there's a photo of him on the cover of a magazine, I think.
The
Somewhere.
Slam magazine.
The
yeah.
Slam magazine. Yes. So my response to this was I missed late 90s NBA Jason Williams White Chocolate by like probably 2 years.
Yeah.
Like my sports like awareness, I would probably say started in like 2000.
Yeah, so he was at Florida, which is kind of where, the notoriety picked up, and then famously played high school basketball with Randy Moss in Rand, West Virginia, and all of that stuff. And so he's just sort of known for being a super creative basketball player. His NBA career was not like phenomenal by any means, but he's always someone who's like the highlights were far greater than what the box score would ever look like.
Oh, definitely.
If you isolated
I'm aware of that.
individual moments, he had in just unbelievable creativity in terms of getting people the ball. It's just wild to me. Part in that story, they used to only give them like a couple jerseys a year. So part of why it's so rare to find anything like this, like it's rare to find game used rookie jerseys because they just don't exist. They just got destroyed or whatever else. And there was only a couple of them, whereas now it's like guys probably have 15, 20 versions of jerseys, overall throughout the season. So it's a lot more plentiful. That kind of threw me. Largely what I wanted to get to, hypothetically, if you're dropping serious coin on memorabilia, let's say you had the money to be able to do that.
I do not.
Where are you going with this? What would you want to own?
I'm trying to think of, because I'm not a huge memorabilia guy.
I couldn't tell that based on your desk over there.
Those are free bobbleheads. Okay. There's
a lot of memorabilia.
There's a difference. I accumulate stuff. I don't buy memorabilia. But I'm trying to think about something that would like really, really mean something to me. And it wouldn't be like a random NBA guy jersey.
No. I mean, I didn't think you'd be interested in the Jason Williams.
It would have to be. It would have to be either a Creighton or a Royals jersey, and I don't know that there's any Royals.
It wouldn't even have to be a jersey either. Like if there's something else that you would rather
It
have.
could be a shirt that has the championship season or the Creighton's Elite Eight season.
What about the bat from Salvador Perez on the double down the line in the 2014
American League wildcard game?
Yes.
People forget.
What if you just had a signed program from that game?
That'd be awesome. I like pictures. So can I get like a big blown up picture from the 2014 American League wildcard game?
Yeah, you can probably get that for like $6.
I would love to buy that.
All right.
Someone send me that. I will spend big coin, $6 on my American League wildcard picture.
What about you, Joey?
Oh man, I mean, I already got my little piece of paper that says I have a share of the Packers. That's my prized possession. Either that, or I have that, and then I have my Celtics championship memorabilia from the 24 season. That was a great year.
These are bad answers. I'm sorry.
No, there's no like correct answer. It's whatever somebody would want.
I do have an Elite Eight shirt.
That the Packers stock was such a memento that one would not need anything else, but I
have the cheese head as well, but I don't really wear it as much as I used to when I was a kid. I just have it out for good luck, just in case.
Do you have it framed and it's like right next to the television, and you have a little like shrine built around it?
Yes, I have a little shrine in the living room. I got my little mini helmet surrounding all the Packers stuff.
What if I got you a copy of Jose Ramirez's newly signed 7-year extension?
The physical of the paper?
Yeah.
I would love that. That'd be amazing.
Would that be awesome?
That would be really funny.
That'd be a cool piece of memorabilia.
How much money would you pay for that little piece of the Metrodome I have laying around at home? I can't find it at
Is
the
there
moment.
any like provenance, or are you just bringing me like a piece of concrete?
It's the roof.
It's a piece,
right. No,
it's,
yeah,
it's
but
a
like,
piece
is
of roof.
there?
It's like a little square tile of the roof.
Would I be able to tell that it's a square tile of a roof?
Yeah. It has a little label saying this is from the Metrodome.
It's got a placard. It's got a placard.
Well, we could discuss. I can display it over here and put it in my.
He has a desk to put stuff on.
He does.
What would have been your answer to this question?
I don't know. I've thought about this a lot because, I'm not. A lot of it is how do you display stuff.
Yeah.
Like I would love to have a Jose Ramirez bat, but like a bat is somewhat difficult to display. You do a shelf, or you
got to do like a holder. Yeah.
You have to have the glass case or whatever else. And then the other thing is, do I want it from a very specific thing? That's why I asked about the Salvador Perez for the 2014. Because then it's like, do I want it from the first playoff game that I ever attended where Cleveland dismantled Rick Porcello? Or do I want, what do I want it from?
So I think that's what I would do. I would go like events that I was at or that I remember.
Like if I could very specifically have any NFL jersey, it would be the Thanksgiving Day Randy Moss eviscerates the Cowboys jersey.
Amazing.
Would be incredible.
When he had like 3
and
catches
I can put it
for
next
200
to a picture
yards.
of Scott Stapp, who I think was the halftime show that day.
Oh, that was that
I don't
game?
know if it was the same one. I blend that in my
I
memory.
thought the
but I don't
Randy
think it
Moss game was in
98.
Minnesota.
So I think Scott Stapp had to have been. No, that was in Dallas. Always plays at home on Thanksgiving.
I guess you're right. Yeah.
No, so there's no way the Creed crosses over with that, but I want to believe that's true.
No, I think the Creed one was later.
Like
Creed was into the
2001,
2000s.
like
Yeah. Well, you get that Scott Stapp jersey.
The amount of Scott Stapp Cowboy jerseys that I saw when I went to the Creed concert last year, incredible.
I bet. Very, very famous performance now. Okay. That is going to do it for us today. Appreciate y'all joining. We'll wind down. If you missed anything, 1620thezone.com is where you can find it. The crossover is next.
It's Happer